He was destined to see where the path of the sword ends, its very finale and outcome. Before his death, his teacher had left him a testament along with this most formidable blade. But in the face of inevitable near death, all his past was in vain. He had many bitter regrets, and this pain was reflected in his bloody hand. All his life he had been obsessed only with the sword, and now it seemed a terrible mistake. The defeated guy only dreamed of living a normal life. But he was cruelly reminded that the son of a clan traitor did not deserve such favor. A sad picture appeared before his eyes. The once great Tang family of Sichuan, masters of poisons and weapons, had been destroyed. It was done by one of the new, ruthless forces of Murim, a terrifying might that crushed the order of the entire 9 great sects. The culprit was Yang Chong-hyuk, the dreadful demon lord of heavenly radiance. To refuse him was deadly for anyone. If the demon lord suddenly liked a woman, he would offer her to be his lawfully wedded wife without a shadow of a doubt. But if she refused, the demon lord did not stop. He simply took her by brute, unrelenting force. And that was the terrible fate that befell the Tang family. The poisonous phoenix Tang Jihei became the cruel overlord's new coveted target. When he appeared to take Tang Jihei, the clan met him face to face and a bloody battle ensued. The Tang family fought incredibly desperately. They were able to defeat the demon, but at what cost? All their strength and resources were exhausted. The victory was too bitter. Weakened and exsanguinated, the Tang family was inexorably approaching its total collapse. The white-haired man once again mocked the boy lying on the ground, unable to understand how he could have already given up after all. There was a long way to go. He kicked the fallen man and threw angrily that he dare not stare. If he didn't like something, let him blame his own mother. Such was his sad life. His mother attracted a demon. The clan was destroyed. All the lumps and insults now fell on her. Late at night, the boy returned to his humble room. There they were waiting for him and quietly asked him why he had stayed so long. He was met by Tang Jihei, his mother, the poison phoenix. She worriedly asked what had happened to his face. The boy laughed awkwardly, rubbing the back of his head, assuring her that it was fine, it was nothing. But the mother didn't believe it. In tears, she asked if he had been bullied by the other kids again. He lied that he had just fallen while playing. She gently touched his cheek, worried that it would leave a scar. Her son promised to be much more careful next time. He squeezed her hand tightly, trying to reassure her, asking her not to worry, because everything would be okay. The mother carefully asked if he had eaten today. The son replied that he had no appetite at all, and he just wanted to rest a little. He knew that his mother was not to blame for their troubles, but he was so bitter and lonely, because there was no one to complain to. If he became indignant or raised his voice, he would only bring trouble and retribution upon himself, just as it had happened to his father. Even if they decided to leave the Tang family, who would protect mother and son? His heart clenched with longing and pain. He thought that if only his father were there now, things could have turned out very differently. Those bullies showed up again. The white-haired man grinned and told the boy to stop exaggerating his suffering so much. One of them roughly grabbed him by the hair, angrily hissing at him to stop being so dramatic, because this was just the beginning of their fun. But the other stopped them, saying it was too much, and told them to leave the poor man alone. He showed a box of needles, saying that he had prepared something to play with Young Myeon. It would be sad if he got maimed before he started. Young Myeon sighed. Here we go again? What were they up to this time? He silently prepared himself for another cruel ordeal. The ringleader announced that since they would soon be competing to be the young clan leader, they could try to test the poison. Tang Chonil warned, a wrongly used needle can cripple. He told Young Myeon to say thank you for holding him tightly. Chonil assured Young Myeon that he wasn't going to kill him. As soon as the effects of the poison were confirmed, he would be given the antidote right away, honestly. Young Myeon looked at his tormentor with anger and incredible determination. He firmly told himself that he would not die. No way. Wow. The skin instantly reacted to the poison. Everyone around them shouted, encouraging Young Myeon to hold on as best he could. He thought that if he just closed his eyes, things would get easier. The pain would subside, the suffering would stop, if only for a moment. But then the image of his mother came up. Who would protect her if he surrendered? For her sake, he had to endure, no matter what. Gritting his teeth in pain and resentment, he cursed his weakness. If only he hadn't been born so helpless. The dark silhouettes of his abusers appeared in his imagination. How he wished he could fight back, to confront all these tormentors. He didn't ask for much. He just wanted to be strong enough to protect himself and his mom from all the hardships of this world. Through the tears and rain came a cry of despair. He wanted more than anything to live a normal, ordinary life. Suddenly, a ghostly sword shone before him. "What is it? Where did it come from here?" The boy looked at it in amazement. A strange feeling swept over him. He had definitely never seen that blade before, but somehow it looked so familiar. It was the sword of the warrior from his vision. One who had trained with it for over 100 years, devoting his entire life to the art of the blade. And that warrior had finally reached his goal. The pinnacle of mastery, the limit of the sword path he had strived so long and hard to reach. It was all for one single moment, for the attainment of the absolute. His whole long and difficult life had been leading to it. But in the end, even after reaching the summit, he realized the bitter truth. It had all turned out to be utterly futile, empty. Even after becoming a master of the sword, he could not stop the approaching death. His incredible skill was powerless. The warrior's soul was filled with deep regret. If only he could live another life. Another life. And now, in this weak boy's body, he wanted one thing. He wished he could just live a normal, ordinary life. At that moment, everything fell into place. He remembered. In this new life, he remembered everything from his past life. Yes, he remembered everything. In his previous life, he was a great sword master. And in this life, he was Tang Youngmyong. A flash of light enveloped him, and a precept from a past life rang in his head. Live a normal life. This is his chance. The next morning, his mother saw him going somewhere. She was worried where he was going after yesterday's beating. He reassured her. Youngmyeon assured his mother not to worry. Nothing terrible would happen again. He looked at her with renewed determination. The bullies were waiting for him. One guy asked in surprise if Youngmyeon was avoiding them today after seeing them yesterday. The other suggested that he was unlikely to show up. They had beaten him up so badly he wouldn't want to show his mother. But then Youngmyeon showed up. The main bully, Munchang, smirked, noting that he had a lot of guts. Munchan reached out gloatingly. Still, he decided to give him a good beating again since he had come himself. And if Youngmyeon didn't come, they would gather everyone around and loudly taunt him as a coward. The bullies laughed nastily, but their laughter was abruptly cut short. One of them suddenly noticed Youngmyeon approaching. The bully girl said she already thought it was as if he wouldn't show up today. She even had time to get a little worried. She immediately called out to him, waving her hand in a friendly manner. "Hey, Youngmyeon, hurry up and come over here." Munchan mockingly addressed the guy who approached, suggesting that he must be having a very difficult life right now. He stared at Youngmyeon with surprise and unconcealed anger. "Why isn't there a single bruise on his face from yesterday?" Youngmyeon calmly replied, looking straight into Moonchan's eyes, that he definitely couldn't be harmed by such a thing. Incredible impertinence. The hooligans around him were stunned by such insolence. Just yesterday he was moaning in pain, and today he suddenly spoke so boldly. Munchan mocked him. "Like this?" he asked with a snide smirk. "Maybe Youngmyeon needs a hot compress for his bruises." The girl shook her hands in surprise. What's wrong? Youngmyeon is even calling them by their first names today." Her face suddenly distorted into a sinister smile and her eyes flashed madly. She quietly asked Youngmyeon if he had decided to die today. She wondered if yesterday's poison wasn't enough. Shouldn't the dose be doubled? But Youngmyeon looked coldly at Chanyol. Chonil was furious at such disregard. Why dare he ignore the person right in front of him? He rushed forward, but Youngmyeon took him to the ground with one lightning-fast, precise strike. How? Chanyol was knocked out with one punch? It's unbelievable. The bullies were completely shocked and confused. He had never studied martial arts? How is this even possible? The girl looked at Youngmyeon with undisguised horror. He calmly said that what they could do, he could do now. The young man asked defiantly, "Weren't they talking about participating in the upcoming competition for the young head of their clan?" Mongchan couldn't believe his eyes. What the hell? He thought that Youngmyeon had become a completely different person overnight. Youngmyeon confidently stepped forward, mockingly asking, "Are they really going to participate with such pathetic skills?" Munchan mentally told himself to calm down. He thought that Chonil had just let his guard down for a while, that's all. He reminded himself that they had been preparing for years for this competition. There was no way they were going to lose to this upstart. Munchan threw himself into the attack. He shouted that he would see if the opponent would speak the same way when he tasted his real strength. Youngmyeon easily stopped Moonshan's punch. He thought that if all the competitors were on the same pathetic level, then the outcome of this important contest was already decided. He stood firm, full of confidence in his victory. The action has moved to the hidden poison hall. Originally, the head of the clan lived there and the most important family decisions were made. But since the clan head's seat had been empty for a long time, this hall had become the meeting place of the Tang family's Council of Elders. One of the elders began the meeting, noting that the number of participants in the competition for the title of young clan head had dwindled. And now they have to make a final decision about Tan Youngmyeon, the son of Poison Phoenix, who hasn't announced his participation yet. But everyone knew he was openly bullied by the other kids. He had no accomplishments, so no one would mind being excluded. Another elder objected. He asked, "Doesn't this young man have the blood of their former revered clan leader in him? Its exclusion could call into question the legitimacy of the entire upcoming contest, which would be very undesirable." The chief elder said he understood that. But wouldn't the participation of someone who doesn't know martial arts lower the level of the tournament? He thoughtfully concluded that even though the former head's blood flowed in Youngmyeon, he was now just a heavy burden on the whole family. Suddenly, the door swung open and Youngmyeon himself entered the hall with determination. Someone shouted his name in astonishment. "Tan Youngmyeon?" The chief elder looked angrily at the uninvited guest and asked him threateningly if he even knew what he was doing. Youngmyeon only smiled slightly, calmly replying that he understood very much and thanked the elder for his concern. Holding the defeated Chonil, he stated that he had suffered a lot of humiliation from the Tang family and was not going to take it anymore. He pointed at the beaten man, asking how could a child, a participant in an important competition for the position of young clan head, be so harmed? One elder cried out in anger, asking Youngmyeon, doesn't he realize that he has committed a very serious crime? The young man calmly objected that he knew the rules of the family. But is fighting between the contestants a problem? Munshin behind his back was shocked. He couldn't believe his ears, thinking to himself, what kind of nonsense is this kid talking about? The head elder sternly asked Tang Youngmyeon what he had said. Does he really want to participate in the clan's competition? Youngmyeon looked at him defiantly, boldly asking, wasn't what he had just done enough to prove it? He advised them to check the square outside, reminding them that Munchang and Chonil had constantly bullied him before. Youngmyeon explained his act simply. He was only following the clan's rule of repaying goodness twice and revenge tenfold. The elder clenched his fist as he pondered the situation. So, Youngmyeon has proven his worth and is firmly willing to participate in the competition. The other elders were outraged. They cried out that he was just using a loophole to get away with it, and it was dangerous for everyone. But another elder unexpectedly supported him, suggesting that he give the lad the right to take part in the coming contest. He asked the others why stop Youngmyeon if he was so sure. Why limit a capable child who wants to participate? The head elder looked at the young man intently. He said he hoped his confidence matched his actual skills. He sternly warned, if Youngmyeon didn't become the young clan head, he would have to pay dearly for today's incident. His mother met him at the doorstep, shocked. She did not understand how he could have done such a thing, what he had done in the Hall of Elders. She couldn't believe her ears when she asked him again if he was really going to enter the competition for the young chapter seat. Youngmyeon firmly answered her, looking straight into her eyes that it was absolutely necessary. There was simply no other choice. The mother saw his incredible determination. She realized that this was not just a childish whim, he was deadly serious. She looked at her son. Youngmyeon. His name meant survive as long as possible. He must live up to it. His mother said she would not ask where he learned these techniques and how he was able to outperform 3 children at once. She only asked one question, looking her son in the eye. Was he sure about competing to be the young clan head? Youngmyeon asked with a smile, who did she think he was? He proudly declared that he was the son of the Poison Phoenix himself, her son. His mother hugged him tightly, touched. She said he had really grown up a lot, and she was so proud of him now. It was so warm and peaceful in his mom's arms. Youngmyeon thought that he wanted to continue to protect his ordinary, peaceful life. But if anyone dared to disturb her, he would destroy everyone mercilessly. His gaze became hard as steel. 1 month passed. Someone asked Tang Jihei, his mother, if maybe we should leave things as they are, not interfere. The interlocutor reminded her that competing for the young chapter seat was no child's play. Every moment there was worth its weight in gold. But his mother calmly replied to keep him. Youngmyeon must have had his own good reasons for doing so, she remarked. She added that he was definitely not the kind of kid who would act without a well-thought-out plan. Grand Chapter Tang Chuk-hui agreed. Tang Chuk-hui, the head of the Dark King clan, thought that Young Myung's skills were simply incredible for a child of his age. But be that as it may, the attitude that the young man was now displaying made Chuk-hui think about a lot of things. Mother asked Chuk-hui if he was worried. She thanked him and the Dark King clan for protecting and caring for Young Myeon. Chuk-hui thought the situation was serious. He had high hopes for Young Myeon, but asked if it was okay for him to train with everyone. Young Myeon sat in meditation, reflecting on what he had been doing up to this point, preparing for his trials and his new life. He ate fresh and delicious meals prepared by his caring mother and slept a lot, restoring the strength of his young body. He also meditated to correct the distorted chi pathways in his body. There was simply no need to refine his strength and skills now. Someone like him, who had awakened with the memory of a sword master from a past life, could try out his old skills at any time. However, right now, it was much more important to strengthen the very vessel containing this immense power, his still fragile body. At such a small age, only 12 years old, the meridians and pathways of the body were not yet heavily clogged and were easy to develop. As his level will increase, there will naturally be a transformation, a rebirth of his physical shell. And even then, a strong foundation, his body, will be vital to reaching new heights of strength. So now he needed to focus on physical growth, nutrition, and rest to maintain a perfect balance. That was enough for now. The long-awaited day of the contest came. Young Myung, ready for the test, said goodbye to his mother, saying that he was going. His mother watched him anxiously and hopefully. She had, of course, told him to take care of himself and to be extremely careful. Tang Chuk-hui also said goodbye to sister Tang Ji-hye. She smiled warmly and said that she was also very happy to see him. Young Myeon and Chuk-hui walked together. A dark shadow like an ominous omen lay in their path, watching them. The leader of the Dark King clan left to attend to the business of the competition. Young Myeon crouched down to wait, thinking that he had about half an hour more. There were other participants standing nearby. One of them noticed Young Myeon and asked him if he was the son of the Poison Phoenix. The other one confirmed it. Yes, it was the same Tang Young Myeon who had recently managed to beat up Moon Chan himself and his henchmen. One guy snorted disdainfully, not believing the rumors. He had heard that Young Myeon was incapable of even learning martial arts. Young Myeon heard everything. He thought to himself that with such participants, the level of competition for the young clan head's position had simply collapsed. Gossip Girl thought they needed to work on their discipline. But then he got punched in the face by Young Myeon. Sharp and unexpected. The guy recoiled in shock and anger. He shouted that this insolent man had suddenly used some hidden weapon against him. The other took a closer look and corrected him. It wasn't a concealed weapon at all. It was just an under-eaten rice cake. An angry mob surrounded Young Myeon. They were shouting that they wouldn't just leave this guy alone. There were only 2 of them with Moonchan, but there were a lot of them. Young Myeon boldly stepped toward them, mockingly asking, hadn't they heard that Munchan and his entire group had been defeated? He suggested that they experience it firsthand, reminding them that Munchang didn't run away even with a broken arm after all. He looked at the crowd with a challenge. Since they are the contestants, they certainly won't dare to run away, will they? The furious opponents rushed at him from all sides. They shouted furiously that they would kill this insolent upstart. Tang Chuk-hui arrived just in time. He was astonished to see the beaten boys and asked, "Is this child a contestant?" He quickly ran to the scene of the fight, wondering what could have happened there that was so serious. As he ran up, he shouted threateningly to the boys, asking what all the commotion was about. He was shocked by what he saw. Young Myeon sat on his defeated opponents and yawned. He calmly said that he was just a little bored while waiting for it to start. He immediately added, lest Chokvi should misunderstand him. After all, they were the first to start, and asked him to be a little gentler with him. At this time, the elders in the hall were seething with rage. They shouted that they could not turn a blind eye to this right before the contest. The great elder of Ha, Tang Xiaochon, listened to their cries. One said that if such a one became head, something terrible would happen. Then the grand elder made a decision. He proposed to change one of the rules of the upcoming important contest. 2 female participants were discussing the contest. One asked how it was conducted. The other answered about years of training and dueling. A third girl in a mask appeared. The first one asked who she was. The pink-haired one replied that she was just answering a question. The masked girl asked suspiciously how she knew the details. The masked girl asked suspiciously how she knew the details. The pink-haired girl proudly stated that her father worked at headquarters. He gave her a hint, for information is very important everywhere. Tang Chokhui came out and loudly introduced himself. The head of the Dark King clan, the one overseeing this competition. The crowd cheered enthusiastically. This was the head of Chokhui himself. The youngest clan head, it was so incredibly impressive. Chokhui began to explain the rules. The competition lasts for 4 years, of which 3 years are devoted to hard training. The first year is dedicated to finding his methodology and honing his skills in throwing, wielding concealed weapons, and making poisons. The next 2 years were spent in comprehensive training under the guidance of specially appointed experienced clan warriors. And now, after all the training is complete, the main competition will begin. Chokhui announced that the form of the competition will be... Suddenly, he was interrupted by the Grand Elder. He threateningly proclaimed that it would be a deadly duel with the poison goo. The participants froze with horror. Poison? Goo? Was it really that legendary and terrifying poison? The elder explained the gruesome method. The strongest poisons were placed in a jug, and they fought each other, purifying the powerful toxin. He told Chokhui that initially the young head was chosen based on the results of one-on-one duels. But due to a recent incident, many dropped out. He added that if they had continued with the original rules, such violent incidents could have happened again. That is why they have changed the format of the competition. This will allow all participants without restrictions to reveal their strengths to the fullest. The Grand Elder angrily declared that it was all Tan Youngmyung's fault. This is not childish fighting, but a noble ceremony where people risk their lives. The winner, he said, would possess absolutely everything that belongs to the great Sichuan Tang family, all their power and heritage. Youngmyan only lightly grinned to himself. Well, it seems like this test won't be that difficult. Meanwhile, in Sichuan province, in the Black Death Alliance meeting room, someone started an important secret meeting thanking everyone. He asked the audience to listen to him, for they were already aware of the plan that the weakened Tang family was now developing. Did someone clarify if he was referring to the competition for the young clan head's position? Their spies reported that it had only been announced a couple days ago. He confirmed it. Immediately after the announcement, the participants, potential future heads, left the clan territory in closed wagons. Of course, the Tang family was so weak right now that their leader could easily destroy it at any convenient moment. But Yu Qiljin, the powerful head of the Black Death Alliance, hadn't touched them yet. They could still be of some use. Another participant in the meeting remarked gloomily, "It is clear that these children are the future of the Tang family. If anything goes wrong, it will do terrible damage to them." Someone grinned gloatingly, agreeing with this. The words of the Dark Moon Sword Sect's sect leader were completely true. Even though they denied it, the Tang family still had something to fear. He asked impatiently when they would finally come forward. The leader told them to hold off on any active action for the time being. They had to wait patiently for the most opportune moment to strike. Tracking down the cart and picking the buds that the Tang family was raising would be easy. But would it hurt them too much? He recalled that the competition in the Tang family lasts for 4 long years. One must imagine what would happen if they put all their efforts into these children. What if they were to die in the middle of the tournament? This would be a fatal blow to the weakened Tang clan. She confirmed ominously. It would be the same with the Jiggle and Moyan families. The Tang clan would suffer the same fate, a crushing stab in the back. Dark Moon Sword Sect member Mak Yinhu agreed. For now, they would just watch where the wagon was going, and they would strike in 4 years. He confidently stated that the surveillance of the children had already been organized. But that was not all. They had other tricks up their sleeve. He added that he had planted a small seed among them. With his help, perhaps the entire Tan family would soon fall right into their hands. They arrived at Common Mountain, the site of the competition. Although the rules had changed, the schedule and procedures remained the same. The instructor explained that they would be called by number at the competition. There were 4 people in each group, and they were in Group 7. They showed the numbers. 25 Tang Yuri, 26 Tang Mirio, 27 Tang Ijong. But someone noticed that there was one missing. The instructor looked for number 28. When he spotted Youngmyan, he shouted impatiently, "Why is he trailing behind everyone?" Youngmyan politely apologized, explaining that he was just thinking a bit and so he was a little behind. The instructor told him to keep his head up and keep up. And Youngmyan thought, doesn't their leader feel anything at all? He could clearly feel someone's presence behind him. And it was definitely not a random passerby. Suddenly the instructor realized it too. He shouted loudly to the others that someone was really following them. They were being tailed. Suddenly, a voice from the rock demanded that the seventh group give the password. The children were stunned. What? Can this rock really talk? The instructor confidently replied, the Poison King of Hidden Poison. He confirmed their identities. An unfamiliar man appeared from behind a rock. He introduced himself as Jagal Changshin and said that he would help them in the competition. He explained, his Jagal family barely managed to survive in the past only because of the Tang family's support. In gratitude for this, his family now protects the contest from outside attacks by helping here with their incarnations. The children were amazed at the technique of embodying the Jagal family. It was impossible to understand where you were or what time of year it was. It was really possible. The guys looked at Tan Youngmyong. What was it with him? He looked completely uncollected, as if he was hovering somewhere far away. They remembered that he had been just as absent-minded in the wagon. They had 3 long years to go together. Youngmyeon calmly suggested that they all just introduce themselves to each other. The rest of the guys in the group looked a little tense. The pink-haired girl introduced herself as Tang Yuri. She said that she had heard a lot about him because everyone knew about that fight. The other guy, Tang Ijong, cheerfully introduced himself as well. Youngmyeon immediately reminded him that the other guy had also participated in bullying him. Yuri cautioned Yijong. She reminded him that his great-grandfather is one of the 3 great elders. As long as the competition is going on, he's safe. But Youngmyeon bluntly asked Yuri what she wanted to say. Does she blame him for the fact that now they'll have to fight Goo's poison? Yuri replied that she didn't blame anyone. She was just surprised by the rule change. But then she added that she would argue about it. Ijong tried to smooth things over by saying that they were now a team. But Tang Miryo sharply objected that she wanted to argue about it. She jabbed her finger at Youngmyeon. Doesn't he look like someone who constantly causes others serious inconvenience? Miryo declared that the others might have let him get away with it, but not her. She had worked so long and hard to prepare for this day. She firmly said that if this kid makes trouble again, she won't just let it go, he will definitely pay. Suddenly, Miryo noticed that they had stopped. She asked irritably why they had all stood up, what had happened this time. Yijong looked around confused. He noticed that their trainer Jagal seemed to have suddenly disappeared somewhere. He panicked. The coach had been right in front of them a second ago, and now he had just vanished. Where could he have gone so suddenly? Miryo worriedly said that getting lost in the incarnation was dangerous. One could get stuck in the rift. Had the trainer fallen into his own trap? She screamed in panic for him to stop. What would happen to them now? How would they get out of this horrible illusion on their own? Yuri nervously suggested that if they stood still, someone would come and rescue them. Miryo asked if they were really stuck. Yuri asked if anyone knew anything about the incarnation. She noticed Youngmyeon looking around quietly and was surprised at his reaction. Coach Jigal watched them from the sidelines. He thought that they should be panicking by now. There was no way to get out of the Phantom Dome without a caster. He grinned. Who would have thought that the Tang elders would be so petty as to take over an entire group because of one child? A mysterious voice came out. He promised to double the Jigal family's support if he destroyed number 28, that is, Youngmyeon. Coach Jagal trembled, grabbing his fan. Double the family's support? How could one ignore such a generous offer? He thought that dishonesty would only hurt the Tang family, and his Jagal family could only benefit from it by strengthening their position. Suddenly he heard a strange sound and turned around sharply. What? Where did that noise come from? Right in front of him stood Youngmyeon, touching the wall of illusion. He asked Coach Jagal, what was he thinking when he decided to just leave them like this? The young man added that they were inexperienced and couldn't keep up with him, asking them to be more careful. Coach Jagal became nervous, admitting his mistake. Youngmyeon was immediately next to Yuri. How? He thought there was no gap in his creation. How did the boy get so close? Yuri asked Youngmyeon in shock. How did he do that? He calmly replied that he just cut it. Cut the incarnation? What is he talking about? Miryo shouted that they had taken the time to worry about it. They were lucky they could even find Coach Jagal again. She told everyone to follow him closely this time, lest they lose him again. But she didn't have time to finish. The coach was missing again. Miryo stared at the empty seat in horror. He had just disappeared from under their noses again. Damn! Coach Jagal was rushing through the illusion. To think that he, a member of the Jagal family, had to run through his own incarnation. He realized that this boy's eyes could not be deceived by mere tricks. But how could a child barely 12 years old have such a spirit? The trainer stopped, breathing heavily. He decided that this should definitely be enough. He'd gone deep enough into the layers of illusion. He was sure that whatever method the boy used, there was no way he could get here into the heart of his creation. Suddenly, a warrior appeared in front of him. The trainer flinched as he recognized him. It was Tang Wonjin, the designated overseer of the 7th group. Wonjin looked around and sternly remarked that the coach looked bad, and the members of the 7th group were nowhere to be seen in the vicinity. He asked Jaegel bluntly, "What's going on here?" He inwardly braced himself, ready for this kind of uncomfortable question. The coach lied that apparently the 7th group would not participate. Wonjin asked sharply, "In what sense?" Jaegel continued to lie that he waited for a long time, but they didn't show up. Perhaps they were attacked by bandits or wild animals. He regretfully added that this happens. Apparently, we will have to continue the competition without the 7th group. Suddenly, there was a crackling sound behind them. Wonjin shouted, "Is there really an intruder out there?" Jaegel panicked, asking Sir to wait. He would check. Broken. One of the highest incarnation forms of the Jaegel family. Their legendary 7 Castles Phantom Dome was broken so easily. Amidst the shards of illusion stood Youngmyeon. His eyes were burning red and his smile was frightening. He asked how they were doing. He was very worried, after all. Mirio was completely stunned. She thought to herself that this was just an incredible, marvelous ability. The others couldn't believe their eyes either. Had he himself, with a short sword, destroyed such a powerful incarnation? Youngmyeon calmly corrected them, saying that he didn't destroy it, but only made a small opening. He told them to leave quickly before it closed. Wonjin and the confused Jaegel stared at them. They had come out of the shattered illusion. The warrior stammered and asked, "Is this really the 7th group?" The children confirmed and asked who he was. Yuri was surprised to notice the familiar crest of the great Tang family on his armband. Wonjin exhaled a sigh of relief. He was afraid they were being attacked, just like Coach Jaegel had lied to them. Good thing it turned out not to be true. Youngmyeon cheerfully explained that they weren't attacked, they were just lost. But thanks to Wonjin marking the entrance, they found their way easily. Coach Jaegel watched nervously. It looked like Wonjin was following the orders of the Tang family. He decided to treat it as just a suspicion for now, but Youngmyeon thought otherwise. If it turned out after the competition that Jaegel had cooperated with the elders, he would eradicate his entire clan. Coach Jaegel laughed nervously, apologizing for the mistake. He quickly retorted, saying that he was going to go check on the destroyed incarnation. Wonjin turned to the group. It had been noisy, but it was good that they had returned unharmed. He apologized for not accompanying them all this time. He introduced himself as Tang Wonjin, a member of the Bonvi squad. He would be in charge of their training during the entire competition. Mirio gasped in surprise. The Bonvi squad. She had heard that they had completely disappeared years ago. What on earth was going on here? The Bonvi squad was a direct military force under the command of the former young clan head of the Tang family's former young clan head, a legendary unit. Each of its members was comparable in strength to a great leader. It was one of the most impressive Tang family elite units in history. Youngmyeon realized something. The past young head was his mom, Poison Phoenix? Did that mean Wonjin was serving her? He boldly asked Wonjin why he wasn't in the Tang family then. Mirio was shocked. He was seeing this man for the first time in his life. Wonjin explained, "Many years ago, they fought desperately to protect their mistress, Poison Phoenix, against the Demon Lord." He lowered his head sadly, recognizing that in that terrible battle they had suffered a crushing, bitter defeat. Having failed to protect their mistress, they felt they were only worthy to be called sinners, forever dishonored by their failure. Wonjin abruptly interrupted the reminiscence. He said that this was the end of the acquaintance, and told them to listen carefully to the rules. He explained that the first year of competition was a period of independent practice. They could practice as they saw fit. Yuri excitedly asked if the legendary technique Rain of 10,000 Heavenly Colors that was lost in the battle with the demon would be available. Wonjin confirmed. This technique would go to whoever took the place of the young clan head. It was an incredible reward for victory. He added that the information about it was incomplete, but the very essence of the technique had been passed down from generation to generation of Tang clan masters. Youngmyeon thought about this technique. Multiple hidden blades flying like a storm. He had never seen anything like this before. He wondered if he could copy it, maybe as a sword control technique, using internal energy to control the blades. Wonjin warned that they would learn the essence of the technique gradually. He didn't know if they could handle such power. It was a big risk. He said he talks too much and told them to focus on practicing, in groups or alone. Yuri asked where they should live. Wonjin grinned, asking, wasn't it natural to forage all by themselves in the forest? Did they really expect to train in comfortable cribs? He sternly stated that comfort would not make them strong. What matters most now is adapting to the extreme conditions of the wilderness. He waved his hand, telling them to begin training according to their preferences. It was time to temper their bodies and spirits in the rigors of the ordeal. The children were horrified. They couldn't sleep in a bed? But good nutrition is so important. They saw no point in adapting to life in the forest. Wonjin thought of Youngmyeon, a high-level incarnation. We should make sure of his real abilities, test his limit. He looked at the young man. Okay, if he passed the test, he could sleep in the manor inside the incarnation. The children were shocked. But if he failed, Wonjin sternly warned participant number 28 to be prepared for the consequences of failure. He explained a simple test. Team members would surround Youngmyeon and throw concealed weapons at him from all sides. The test will be considered complete if he can block or dodge their blows within 5 paces. Wonjin said they'd start as soon as Youngmyeon was blindfolded. The guy calmly put on the blindfold, ready for another challenge. The children stared in confusion, not understanding how this was even possible. They wondered very much why no one moved or attacked at once. Miryu suddenly realized they were deliberately escalating the situation before the attack. Their inaction was only part of their cunning plan. 16 blades. Youngmyeon calmly assessed the weapons flying at him from all sides. It was a lot, but it was easy for him. Many have overlooked. The martial arts are not just honed techniques, but also profound principles such as depth of understanding. The fundamentals were important. Weight, speed, variability. And his arts of ascension included destruction and dissipation. For Youngmyeon, who had comprehended these principles in his previous life, the task at hand was not very difficult. But for those who were just learning and had not reached his level of enlightenment, what they saw was a real shock, an incredible sight. Wonjin couldn't believe his eyes. He had deflected all the blades in one move. No, he didn't reflect them. It was as if he had bound them with an invisible force. Wonjin thought that even he would have a very hard time dodging all those blades. No, this guy was on a whole other level. Youngmyeon calmly removed the blindfold and asked the warrior if he had passed this simple test, if he had fulfilled the conditions set. Ichjung hesitantly called out to Wonjin, who didn't seem to hear him, still very impressed by what he had seen. Well, the result? Wonjin rubbed his chin thoughtfully. The boy was definitely up to the challenge. He told Youngmyeon that he had done well and could go rest at the manor. It seems that a real strong monster has appeared among them. The guys looked at him with outright envy and distrust. Yuri asked if he was going to enjoy the comfort alone. Wow, Youngmyeon thought that the manor would probably have tons of different delicious food. But do they even bring food to the forest here? He rubbed his hands together in anticipation and shouted that he was looking forward to it. Oh shit. The guys shouted indignantly at him. Hold it right there. Wonjin thought it was good that the rest of the team had not lost their battle motivation. But it seemed the outcome of the battle was already decided. Apparently, he was the one and only. Wonjin suddenly remembered something and called out to Youngmyeon, who was already walking away. Youngmyeon turned around and gave advice. Be sure to include meat in every meal. A growing body needs good nutrition. 3 children bravely rushed to attack the huge, fearsome wolf. They flew through the air, ready for a fierce fight. Yuri exhaled in relief, glad that her paralyzing poison had worked so well. Ichjong agreed. If it kept going like this, they'd be fine. At the campfire, Miryo praised Ichjong. His poison creation skills were impressive, and his hurricane technique was very unusual. Yuri sighed, remembering the past. It had been a whole 4 months already. On the first day, all they did was run away from a huge bear. Miryo remembered how hard it had been for them. They couldn't find proper prey, only grass and bitter roots to chew on. Yizhong shamefully remembered how they had all cried bitterly with joy when their first rabbit hunt had finally succeeded. It was very hard to survive in the wild forest, but they still managed to find some shelter in a small rock cave. By the fire, Yuri asked thoughtfully, wondering how Youngmyeon was doing in his comfortable manner. He must be doing very well. Miryo immediately angrily barked at her not to even bring it up. But Ichjong quietly admitted that he was also a little curious. Mira snorted contemptuously. She was curious, you see. She imagined how Youngmyeon must be hanging around all alone. She added gloatingly, "You'll see, this kid will get to the estate and he'll get what he deserves for everything." But Ijung wondered, considering what Young Myung had arranged back then, just how strong was he supposed to become if he kept practicing all this time? Mirio suddenly frowned, interrupting her reflection. Wait a minute. Where's all the meat they just cooked? Yuri was blissfully lying down, stroking her belly. Ugh. She said she had a really good meal. It was so delicious and filling. She lazily asked the guys to move over. They were blocking the light. Why were they looking at her so strangely and angrily? Miryu yelled at her in a rage. Are you serious now, you pig? You ate all their meat by yourself? How could you do that? Meanwhile, in the Seven Castles Dome Fortress, Youngmyeon was training hard. The warriors of the Banwoo squad stood in front of him, ready to spar. Youngmyeon decided it was time to try out his newly developed technique. He prepared a special weapon on his fingers. He scattered his weapons in the air. The opponents were puzzled, not understanding his strange maneuver, and wondered what he was hoping for. Suddenly, a barrage of shurikens descended upon them. Shurikens? They couldn't be seen. They were flying too fast, taking everyone by surprise. Wonjin couldn't believe his eyes. No way. He had eliminated all of his trained, experienced soldiers in the blink of an eye. Moreover, he controlled the force of his attack so precisely that he only cut the skin slightly. No one was seriously injured. Wonjin walked up to Youngmyeon and bluntly asked if he had come up with this incredible, brand-new technique by himself. The guy calmly answered that yes. Wonjin picked up one of the bent shurikens. He grimly noted that if one fell under the effects of this technique, it would be very difficult to get out. Amazing. He asked the young genius with interest, what was the name of this unique and deadly invention of his? Youngmyeon replied, the mad dance of the rotating line. Wonjin noticed that such a complex technique must consume a lot of precious internal energy. He asked how Youngmyeon was dealing with it. Youngmyeon recalled that he had asked Wonjin for a manual of special eye techniques a long time ago. He showed him an old, shabby scroll. The sky-piercing eye and the eye of the current stream were described there. The former was recommended to him at the time, as the latter was unfinished. But Youngmyeon claimed that it was the eye of the current stream that he had mastered. Wonjin was simply shocked by such an incredible, impossible confession. Youngmyeon explained, yes, there was something missing, but he realized that this technique was part of his ascension martial arts from his past life and was able to use it to throw with minimal energy expenditure. Wonjin thought that this guy couldn't surprise him with anything else. He had made up for what he was missing by studying it all to the fullest on his own. He decided it was time to tell Youngmyeon some very important news concerning his teammates. He said the rest of the kids from his 7th team will be here in 2 months, and they will be subjected to exactly the same test as he was, under exactly the same challenging conditions. Wonjin added that they have already proven their skills in the woods, but they all vowed that they would become even much stronger before meeting their comrade again. Youngmyeon smiled warmly, saying that he would be very happy to see how strong his new friends had become during this time of separation. Wonjin was greatly surprised. Was he worried about his co-commanders? He looked at the crooked drawing they had left him as a memento. He thought that it didn't matter at all what exactly they used for their training. What mattered was that they didn't break and they got stronger. Youngmyeon remembered his past life when he was only connected to the master, the sword ghost. Now, however, he was developing new connections. He felt that for some reason he really wanted to see them all again soon. I remembered how on the first day of training they were completely inexperienced beginners, weak children. But now, oh, they felt that they had reached a completely different, incredible level of strength. Hardened by the forest, the thought that they would soon meet Youngmyeon again stirred their blood and made their hearts beat faster with anticipation. Mirio's attitude was aggressive. She angrily thought that as soon as she saw him, she would break his skull in half. And Yijung was full of determination. He clenched his fist, thinking of victory for the 7th team along with their comrade. Yuri looked at them apprehensively. What was wrong with them? Their attitude even scared her a little. They arrived at a large building and shouted loudly, calling for Tan Youngmyeon to come out immediately. They looked around in surprise. Why was the place so suspiciously quiet? Not a sound, not a response. Yuri suggested that he probably just ran away. They laughed. What a shame Mirio wanted to smash his head in so badly. Yuri suddenly noticed that Ijung had become suspiciously silent lately. Something was clearly wrong. Suddenly, Youngmyeon appeared right behind Ichijung, hugging him. Ichijung was taken aback by this suddenness. Everyone froze in shock. Youngmyeon explained that he hid to surprise them, and asked Mirio what she wanted to do with his head. They froze in place, unable to move in astonishment. Youngmyeon asked with a sneer, "Why are they frozen like that?" He reminded them that they mentioned smashing their heads in. "Come on, let's go. It's a great way to show off 6 months of training." Youngmyeon asked if he should attack first, but they immediately raised their hands, saying that they were just fooling around. It was just a joke. Yuri thought in horror that they hadn't even noticed him until they turned around. He had crept up completely silently, like a ghost. Mirio realized the bitter truth. Living in the forest had certainly sharpened their senses, but were their levels really that much different? They all looked at him, amazed. What had he been doing all that long time on the estate? How had he become so strong? In addition, they noticed that he was noticeably taller, and his face had somehow changed, becoming more mature. Ah? Yuri suddenly blushed, chasing away the strange thoughts. What the hell was that? It was probably because she had only seen animals in the forest so far. Youngmyeon told Yuri not to be so glum. He noticed that her strength had increased noticeably. It was obvious. He immediately added with a chuckle that she was just a little lost against his awesome background. Yuri sighed, looking at him and the guys. She thought. Some things about him never change after all. Night had fallen. In the instructor's meeting room, someone remarked that it seemed that everyone was finally together today. One of them greeted Jungju as he entered. He noticed that it had been 6 months and he hadn't changed at all. Jungju wasted no time. He asked the gentleman to get straight to the point. Was there anyone notable in their groups? One of the instructors immediately recognized participant number 2. He said that she had advanced a lot compared to the others. He added that it didn't feel particularly driven to get stronger or survive, which was rather odd for a participant. However, there was a dusting of immense dislike for someone emanating from her, and it was definitely giving her a good boost to her growth. Another instructor intervened. He said that if we talk about potential winners, it is impossible not to mention participant number 10. This guy was incredibly talented. He managed to pass a difficult military test in just 1 short month. Jungju nodded thoughtfully. Participants 2 and 10 undoubtedly stood out a lot among the other children, but still. He gloomily thought that after meeting number 28, Tang Youngmyeon, they all seemed rather mediocre. Coach Jagal Changshin nervously added his own word. Not only did this kid smash his powerful incarnation, his training was a complete shock. He demonstrated skills beyond the capabilities of even experienced masters. Jigal thought in awe that recruiting number 28 was too risky. It seems that this guy had already revealed his secret plan. Someone noticed that Jungju looked very puzzled. He asked in a sympathetic manner if something important was troubling him. Jungju quickly brushed it off, deciding it wasn't worth bringing it up. He laughed nervously, saying that there was no one special in his group. He suggested it would be better to exclude the 28th from the discussion. They needed a puppet that would be easy to control. He suggested number 2 to his nephew. One instructor heard that her face was disfigured by the injury. The heart of such a child with a grudge was not hard to shake. Jungju has a cunning plan. If he helps her win the competition and become the young lady of the clan and then arranges an engagement to his nephew, then their Jeagle clan will be inbred with the head of the Tang clan. This would expand their powers, allowing them to interfere in the family's internal affairs, and by strengthening their influence among them in favor of their own interests. One day, they might be able to absorb the entire weakened Tang family altogether. The 2 conspirators nodded in agreement. This was why they had kept this whole competition going. It was their long-term plan. Jungju decided that was the end of it. He proposed to end their secret meeting. As he left, Jungju thought about number 28. That one was too valuable to lose. If Youngmyeon managed to survive the tournament, they could tempt him with the spot later. Jungju laughed gloatingly. He had planned to adopt the boy and offer him a place as the young head of the Jeagle family. It would be a double victory. Mirio said firmly, "Yes, after moving to the manor, they practiced twice as hard to catch up with Youngmyeon." Yuri thought in her sleep that there was undoubtedly more training. But for the sake of sleeping in the warmth and comfort of the manor, she could tolerate it. Yuri asked Mirio if Icheon and Youngmyeon went to the lab today. She confirmed that Icheon flew in, gritting her teeth in anger. Mirio was worried. Would everything be all right? Icheon had sworn to kill someone, and she was a master of poison. Youngmyeon showed Yijong the poison he had prepared. He said with a smile that he had put his whole soul into the poison. Yijong took the vial. It was impossible to ignore something like this. Youngmyeon asked what she was up to this time, But then Youngmyeon just drank the poison. Yijung shouted at him, "Why the hell did he drink that poison, you idiot?" She started shaking him, begging him to spit out the poison. She shouted at him to spit it out or he'd move right here. Youngmyeon calmly asked her, "What? Has the poison already taken effect?" He looked completely unfazed. Yijung stopped shaking him, confused, asking why she was shaking the man like that. She was overcome with bewilderment. She panicked. Was the poison weaker than intended? She screamed that the poison would melt his insides. Yijung didn't understand why he was still perfectly fine. Something was clearly going wrong. Mirio and Yuri looked after him. Ah, Mirio yelled. "Why won't he die?" Yuri agreed. Her poisons didn't seem to be working. Youngmyeon drank the poison down like a drink. She yelled at him not to drink her poison like a drink. She tried so hard. He calmly asked if there were any more. This poison wouldn't take him at all. Yijung shrieked that she had nothing else to feed him. "You troglodyte fuck." "Damn!" Yijung slapped the table in anger. "Why on earth isn't it working?" She asked, "Is he really immune to all poisons?" Youngmyeon explained. This is the Tang family's main technique. Poison madness, poison purification. It would be strange for someone who works with poisons to suffer from poisons. Since they're called poison masters, he asked, shouldn't he be able to control even the substances that go into him? Of course he should. As he expected, the poisons that had penetrated his body had transformed into internal energy. If he didn't overdo it, toxins were like an elixir to him. However, such a state can only be attained by deep realization. Those who see poisons as mere weapons will not understand those who taste them. Now weak poisons would barely increase his internal energy. Youngmyeon realized he needed something much, much stronger. He thought about it. He would have a lot of things to deal with before he could live the ordinary life he dreamed of. He thought that he could massacre the elders at any time. He would have the strength. However, that would be too easy. If the Black Death Alliance or Heavenly Radiance Demon Lord suddenly attacked, the outcome would be completely unpredictable. He didn't have any personal scores to settle with the Black Death Alliance. But it was impossible to turn a blind eye to the fact that they had brazenly divided Sichuan. The leader of this alliance was called the genius of their era, for he single-handedly managed to destroy as many as 3 of the 9 great factions. If he were his past self, a sword master, he would have fought him easily. But right now, he hadn't reached his previous level of strength yet. He must become stronger. In order to live like an ordinary person, he needed to become as strong as he was in his previous life. Yijung sighed. Here she was to create the 10 Tang poisons. Youngmyeon asked her back in surprise, "The Tang family's 10 poisons? What are those?" Yijung became indignant. He calls himself a descendant of the past clan leader, yet he doesn't know anything at all. She explained, these were the 10 strongest poisons, the recipes for which they had inherited from their ancient ancestors. The higher the number, the stronger the poison. But most of the formulas were long gone. The 10th poison was so powerful that it could penetrate even the highest-ranked masters. Yijung explained that the surviving substances were divided among the elders. Youngmyeon clarified, even the highest masters couldn't handle them? Sounds... Youngmyeon licked his lips, thinking to himself that this was just the kind of poison one would be tempted by, very tempting. He immediately asked Yijung if she could make the 10th poison. She replied that the formulas had been lost, so how could she imagine it? Youngmyeon sighed sadly, saying that her poisons now made him neither hot nor cold at all. Yijung couldn't believe her ears. No, she warned him. In any case, the 10th poison is so dangerous that its use has been banned altogether. Even he wouldn't survive. A scary moment from the past came to mind. Yijung screamed in pain, asking what had been done to her. Who dared to do such a thing? A cold voice asked if she needed to repeat herself, and asked what was wrong with her face. Why was it so disfigured? He was instantly incinerated? Who would have thought that the poison Grandpa had given her would be so strong? These are the 10 poisons of the Tang family. The pain she had experienced that horrible day, Yijung swore to herself that she would never, ever forget her. And she would definitely get back at him in the poison fight. She smiled evilly, anticipating her revenge on Youngmyeon. It's been another 6 months, and a whole year has already passed since the preparations for this long and dangerous competition began. The instructor turned to the boys. They had honed their martial arts, compensated for weaknesses. Now it was time for the real test. He announced that now they should determine the captain of their team. The boys looked at each other in surprise. The team captain. The instructor explained that they will appoint a provisional for the time being. But by the third year of the competition, they will have to officially elect a leader. Each chosen captain would represent their team in a deadly duel with the dreaded goo poison. It was a huge responsibility. Anyone could take part if they wanted to, but this is a battle to the death. It makes more sense for the team to be led by the most outstanding. Yuri asked, so not everyone would fight in the duel? Mirio added that those who join later might die? Well, that's just a matter of luck. The instructor looked at Youngmyung. Participant number 28, Tang Youngmyung. He decided that he would appoint him captain. Youngmyung explained to the others, he was actually not only the captain of the team, but also a contender to be the future leader of the entire clan. The instructor reminded them that he was now only the temporary captain. He asked loudly if everyone agreed that number 28 would lead them. There were no objections, and everyone remained silent. The instructor told number 28, Tang Youngmyung, to step forward. The instructor held out a box to Youngmyung, telling him to take it. Inside shone a bright, glowing pill like a small sun. He explained, it was the legendary elixir of the Tang family. It was called the Heavenly Heart Pill, a precious treasure. The elixir was created from a decoction of century-old ginseng. It greatly improved internal energy, the strength depending on the level of the person taking it. The other children were outraged. Why did they give such a valuable item to Youngmyung? It seemed completely unfair to them. Youngmyung calmly accepted the gift. The instructor explained, it was the privilege of the team captain. The Tang family had high hopes for them. Especially for him, the instructor was personally very much counting on his success. He said that after taking the pill, Youngmyung would feel something unfamiliar. Youngmyung interrupted him by boldly asking if there was anything else. The instructor was confused, interrupting him. Excuse me? Youngmyung clarified. Could he get something else? He stated firmly, looking straight into the instructor's eyes, that what he needed was not an elixir, but something else entirely. The guys around him were stunned. The instructor was shocked. It was simply unheard of for someone to voluntarily give up an elixir. He asked what the person wanted then. Youngmyung didn't hesitate to answer without hesitation. He wanted to obtain the legendary 10 poisons of the Tang family. This was what his warrior soul craved for. Later, Youngmyung showed the others what he got in return. Mirio asked, so he brought this? Various weapons and vials of poisons. They were disappointed. Only weapons? Where's the elixir? Youngmyung explained. He wanted the 10 poisons, but they didn't give them to him, so he took this. Mirio exploded with rage. You fool, you should have taken the elixir. But Yijung interceded, saying to respect his decision. Yijung added that the elders would definitely be happy that they were able to keep the pill. And then nervously added about that very pill, she quietly admitted to the others that she hadn't returned it to the instructor yet. She still had the pill, hidden from everyone. The action moved back a few hours, showing how things really were between Youngmyung and the instructor. The instructor handed Youngmyung the box of weapons he had requested. He asked if the young man was sure it was a worthy replacement for the Heavenly Heart Pill. Youngmyung took the box. It was a pity, of course, that it wasn't a strong poison, but the instructor noticed that he was the only one who asked for poison instead of elixir. The instructor asked if he needed anything else. Youngmyung calmly replied that it would be enough for now. Youngmyung said he had a question. The instructor looked at him in surprise and asked what kind. Youngmyung bluntly asked what they were going to do with this valuable pill. The instructor replied that it should be returned to the medicine hall. He asked if the man had changed his mind. Youngmyung replied that it wasn't that. It was just that he had come up with a rather interesting idea. The instructor stared at him questioningly. You see? Youngmyung explained that the team members could team up to overthrow the interim captain. It was possible under the rules. The other guys immediately realized his cunning plan, so that's why he agreed to re-elect the leader and give him the Heavenly Heart Pill. The instructor thought for a moment. The idea was good. It could be a good motivation for everyone. Since it was a contribution to the future of the Tan family, why limit it? Youngmyung turned to his team. He said they could fight him whenever they wished. He was up for the challenge. The deadline was before the duel with Poison Goo. The guys immediately rushed at him. Miryu shouted for Shuriken. He's dead, Tang Youngmyung, but he warned them not to expect him to give in. He promised that if he became head of the clan, he would give them each a pill. Youngmyung summoned them again, saying that it was time to sort out the hierarchy. It seemed like it was time to show them who was in charge once and for all. He cheerfully asked one of the defeated how many times he had already lost. Probably about 173 times. He was tireless. Yuri and Mirio were sitting off to the side. Yuri was surprised he wasn't tired at all. Even his breathing didn't stall once. She had given up long ago. Mirio admitted that she no longer cared about the competition. She lived to admire it. Yuri agreed. Yes, the observations of him were quite fascinating indeed. She nudged her friend. Tell me though, right? Youngmyeon reached out his hand to Ijung, who was lying on the ground. He asked if he accepted his defeat in this long fight. He firmly stated that since that was the case, he would take the place of the young clan leader. His confidence was unshakable. Ijung remarked that they haven't even seen the other teams yet, but added that it's hard for him to imagine that Youngmyeon could lose it all. He asked if he would abandon them when he became the head. Youngmyeon shook his hand firmly, showing that friends will remain friends. The instructor addressed them. Everyone had grown tremendously in the past year. He announced that contestant number 28 had been officially appointed captain. He thought it was no surprise considering his strength. He announced that the real deadly duel with poison goo would begin tomorrow. The instructor told Youngmyeon to finish preparing for tomorrow. He nodded briefly, saying that he understood and would be ready. The instructor reminded them that it had been a full 3 years of training. In that time, some had been expelled, and some had even died in the process. He noted that compared to the others, their 7th team looked very successful, with all participants unharmed. Youngmyeon praised them, saying that they had reached the level of the Bombi Brigade. They definitely had something to be proud of after putting in so much effort. He had told them about the poison goo duel many times before, but he decided to warn them one last time. The instructor reminded, up until now, poisons were forbidden. But in a duel with goo poison, even the strongest ones other than the 10 tang poisons could be used. It was a competition where the contestants used the most deadly means. The instructor told number 28 to push his abilities to the limit. Goo's poison duel began. Yijung handed him the set of poisons he had asked him to prepare for this decisive test. She sternly warned, anyone else would die from a drop of fire poison. This wasn't lunch, even a single drop could kill. She added that ocular poison was useless unless it went directly into the eyes. But about the powder of 9 ailments, that was a separate conversation. Ichjung finished the briefing. She said she wasn't too worried, but asked him to promise that he would definitely win. Youngmyeon firmly promised to win. He added that the only people who could hurt him in this competition were them, his loyal friends. Alrighty then. It was time to begin. Youngmyeon said goodbye to the boys and boldly stepped into the shining portal that led to the battle arena. Finally, he clutched the vial of poison in his hand. It was the day of the decisive, deadly duel with Goo's poison. Yijeon thought she was lucky to have the 10 poisons from her grandfather, and also to have a new, unexpected ally who had offered to help her. The Jeagle family? She couldn't believe her ears. Was this powerful clan really offering her their secret support? She asked what their plan was. Elder Jagal recalled that the dueling arena was created with the help of their special incarnations. He explained that they could manipulate these illusions with unprecedented ease to put her in the most favorable position. But Yijung was not naive. She knew they wouldn't help her without a reason. She bluntly asked what they wanted in return. The elder confessed, the Jagal family was too weak to revive. They wished to unite with the Tang but did not want to lose their independence. She realized they wanted to take advantage of her to meddle in Tang's affairs. She boldly asked, what if she suddenly reneged on the deal? The elder replied that that was why he had come to make the arrangement now. He told her to just tell her what she wanted. She had waited and endured all these long 3 years just for this one day. She would kill him and get back the life she had lost. Youngmyeon looked around the deserted arena. Yeah, he thought, it would be centuries before he'd run into anyone here. Watcher Jagal felt. The longer he watched, the more it seemed like the kid's potential was being wasted. The Jagal family had made a choice. It needed to be eliminated faster. He felt creepy. It felt like Youngmyeon was looking right at him. But how is that possible? To break through to reality through so many layers of incarnation? What an unpleasant look. Youngmyeon turned around abruptly, sensing the following. He wondered if it was that annoying Jeagle family. The instructor, on the other hand, said that no one had the right to interfere in a duel with poison goo. The rules were strict, but he'd heard. They'd been poking their noses in since the beginning of this competition. Now they've decided to meddle in the final bout itself? Whatever they were up to, young Mayan decided to ignore it for now. Let them play around and he'll take care of it. He jumped down, heading deeper into the arena. He was determined that he'd have his hands full with them when this competition was over. Jaegal trembled with terror. He was behind several layers of complex illusion after all, and this boy still recognized him so easily. Unbelievable. If he didn't quickly get out of the world of these incarnations, he would definitely be blinded by that horrible, piercing gaze. He barely escaped. Moreover, his incredible sword art was able to cut through the space of illusion to its very core. He had never seen such a level. The Watcher realized the terrible truth. They had miscalculated. They would not be able to deal with this boy. If he realizes their intentions, he will definitely retaliate. Another contestant was looking around in a panic. How did this happen? She screamed in terror to herself that she didn't want to die here. After all she wanted to do was achieve high achievement, join the army and finally support her impoverished parents? Why did everything turn out so horribly? She never wanted to be the young clan head. She was actually planning to just give up. But then, this guy showed up, the same horrible contestant who then gloatingly asked what everyone was here for as if they were waiting for him. She recalled that dreadful day in horror. Where was their surrender? That ruthless monster just wanted to slaughter them all. The girl decided that whoever she met in this arena would surrender to anyone. She wandered forward, hoping that the captains of the other teams might still be alive. One of the contestants, all wounded, decided firmly that she would leave the Tang family. If that guy, Youngmyeon, becomes the head of the clan, she doesn't belong here. Her eyes burned with hatred at the thought of it. If he became the head, what would happen to her then? Her family? Suddenly, another masked figure appeared nearby. She threw in a sneer at the one pushing such speeches, while she herself was barely on her feet. The stranger continued to taunt the wounded woman. Her light technique at least seemed fast, but she was already caught? What a pathetic internal energy. The girl cried out in despair. "No, why is she doing this? They don't need it. They're all from the same Tan family." But the masked guy smiled sinisterly, denying it. He said that he had never considered himself a member of the despicable Tang family. Meanwhile, Youngmyeon found a suitable place. A cave. Just what he needed. No stranger's presence means there's no risk of someone finding him here. He stepped inside cautiously, looking around. There didn't seem to be any uneasy feelings. The place seemed safe. He sat down, crossing his legs. Now was as good a time as any. His body had grown, so there shouldn't be much of a side effect to what he was up to. The enlightenment and accumulation of inner energy for opening the meridian of Yada Im has begun. The most important central channels in the body. With the experience of his past life, he had almost reached enlightenment. His internal energy had also increased sufficiently, thanks to Yizhong's poisons. All the preparations were finally complete. He was ready for the next, most important step to regain his former strength. He decided to destroy all the restrictions placed on his meridians, releasing his true poisonous madness, his hidden power. His inner strength burst out with explosive power. Normally, martial artists experienced indescribable pain during this process. Joints were broken and refused countless times. Bones were broken and rebuilt, strengthening the body to the limit. The body was literally being reborn. It was a painful but necessary process of transformation, of moving to a whole new level of power. But with the experience of his past life, the second time through was much easier. He gritted his teeth, enduring the pain. He thought he had acted wisely when he began to regularly cleanse the meridians of impurities. If they had remained, there would be big problems now. It was wrong to go into battle in stinking clothes. He cleaned his suit in one motion. That was just the beginning. Considering that keeping the body healthy and clean was a priority even before the bout, several significant physical changes could be noted. He felt the power spilling over his body. The efficiency of his internal energy was indeed on a completely different level now. Stepping out of the cave, he stretched his shoulders. It was time to start moving properly, wasn't it? The real contest was just beginning for him. Suddenly, he heard a voice from above. Some masked guy was sitting on a branch, looking mockingly at his defeated opponent. How boring. He mockingly asked, what had he been doing all these 3 years? Didn't he come here to become the head of the clan? The defeated man was silent, bleeding. The guy in the mask continued to mock. Why are you silent? You've been practicing, right? Why are you so weak? Damn. Well, why of all people was it necessary to stumble upon this particular guy? The orphan that the Grand Elder raised as his grandson? Tang Kunlun, the Grand Elder's favorite. It was rumored that he was inhumanly strong, a true monster. The defeated man thought he would have had a chance if he had struck first. But he couldn't even touch him, and found himself in such a pitiful position. Shit, he's really going to die. He wrapped his arms around himself, trembling. Why does that Youngmyeon kid keep getting in his head? It's strange. The thought that he hadn't run into Youngmyeon made him feel better. Some consolation before he died. Kinlan chuckled, asking if he was in a position to laugh. Maybe he had something stashed away. Some kind of secret technology? The one replied that he just remembered something scarier than him. Kinlan frowned, saying that it was actually offensive. Then it will get even scarier, the defeated man promised. He asked Kunlun if he had anything interesting to share before he died. Kinlan smirked gloatingly. For your information, he said, he was a spy of the powerful Black Death Alliance. And since that one had learned his little secret, there was no way to let him live. He thought that he would die soon anyway. But Kunlun decided to introduce himself before the final blow. He proudly announced himself, a member of the Silent Sword Sect of the Great Darkness, Mak In-geek, a name that inspires terror. Suddenly, the defeated man felt strange. What was happening? His body? It didn't move at all. Youngmyeon suddenly showed up. He said he felt someone's presence and decided to check it out. There are some familiar faces here. He looked at the defeated guy with a smile. You're Chonil, aren't you? Nice to meet you. He asked if the man had recovered from their last encounter. A few years ago, under the moon, Mak Yingyuk listened to an order. He was told to infiltrate the Sichuan Tang family using his talents. They explained that with his credentials, pretending to be an orphan would make him easy to trust. And soon the young chapter competition would begin, where parentage was not important. He was ordered to kill the other pretenders and weaken the Tang family from within. If he succeeds and returns, then everyone in his real family would recognize him. But now he lay on the ground, feeling his organs melt from the poison. Suddenly, Youngmyeon was leaning over him. The wounded Chonil asked disbelievingly, Is this the same Youngmyeon? The man confirmed. Youngmyeon grinned, asking if he needed to be pressed face first into the ground again like that time so that he would recognize him better. Chonil frightenedly agreed that it was really him. Youngmyeon looked at the spy's body. He clarified with Chonil, So that guy really turned out to be a spy? Chonil confirmed. Youngmyeon hesitated for a moment. His name was Mak Ingyuk. Chanyol heard that clearly. Was that anger in front of the rock directed at this particular spy? He decided to get something out of the spy. He pulled out a needle, and Mak Ingyuk cried out in pain as the needle jabbed into him. Chonil gasped in horror. My goodness, he had poured poison into that needle. Youngmyeon stood with the poisoned needle, ready to be interrogated. Youngmyeon twirled the needle thoughtfully. What kind of poison could fit in such a small thing? He glanced at Chonil. Perhaps we should neutralize the poison and find out the spy's purpose. Neutralize? Exactly. If he opens up by withdrawing the poison, we could extract information. But Youngmyeon changed his mind. Did he have to do that? Since he was from the Black Death Alliance, it was already quite clear. He looked at Chonil and noticed that he had changed a lot since their last meeting. Years of training had left their mark. Chonil looked away, muttering that it was just a grudge against Youngmyeon, nothing more. He clearly didn't want to remember the past. Youngmyeon hummed. If that was the case, that one would already be lying there next to the spy. Chonil quietly agreed. Unexpectedly, Chonil bowed, saying that he was really sorry for that time. Youngmyeon was surprised at this change. He waved his hand, saying he didn't care about the past, so that one shouldn't bother. But Chonil continued on, realizing that there was nothing he could do about it. However, he thought he should apologize, as a man should. Youngmyeon sighed. He had already said that it was fine and there was nothing to worry about. There was a desperate cry from Tang Yuri, who warned Youngmyeon of the danger creeping up from behind. After realizing that he could not survive, Mak Yingyuk, with his glowing red eyes, decided to take Youngmyeon to the grave with him. Despair gave him strength. Despite his wounds, the spy pulled himself together. He obviously felt something. A thought flashed through his mind. Youngmyeon glanced coldly at his opponent. He said he didn't like to mess around with half-cadavers, but since he was trying so hard, Youngmyeon was adamant. He promised to eliminate the spy so that there would be no trace of him left. Looking at the defeated enemy, Young Myung sarcastically wondered if it would be better to leave a body to be buried. Tang Chanil was in shock. He couldn't believe that Mak Yingyik, one of the strongest challengers, though a spy, had been defeated. Chonil remembered Mak Yingyik's main technique, the deadly longsword of the black-white blade school. It was truly a formidable technique. They both recognized the terrifying power of the spy's technique that allowed him to easily handle the paired blades. Young Myeon asked Chanyol what to do next. Chonil didn't understand the question. Young Myeon calmly explained that now it was just the two of them and they needed to determine the winner somehow. Realizing his situation, Chonil did not hesitate to offer to surrender. He recognized that he simply had no other choice. Giving up, Chonil looked around confused. He had no idea how they were going to get out of this deadly place. Young Myung told Chonil to leave on his own, indifferently asking if he needed an escort. Chonil awkwardly thanked Young Myung for saving him during the fight with the spy and hurried away. Meanwhile, in the main hall of the Taeul Mook faction, everyone froze in anticipation. The warriors could feel the tension. One of the elders, Tang Seokchon, looked at Myung-guo, the artifact that tracked the participant's life. He realized that the person was dead. The life stone associated with the youngest child, as the elder called him, crumbled into dust. There was no doubt. Tang Kyunlin was dead. The elder recalled the past. Mak Yingyik, known as Tang Kyunlin, was his secret son by a servant girl, surpassing the talent of his legitimate children. He painfully recalled his fear. His wife had intended dozens of times to kill the boy so that her eldest son would be the heir. So the elder let his son live under the guise of a spy. Since he could give him nothing as a father, he gave him at least this. Elder Tang Seokchong's heart shrank with grief, but immediately rage erupted. He vowed to avenge his secret son. Anger distorted the elder's face. He ordered all his disciples to prepare for the decisive battle on Mount Gongsan. Revenge is at hand. The elder looked at his warriors. He believed that the moment had come. The Tang family was vulnerable, their command far away. It's time to strike. With his eyes glittering with anger, he passed judgment. From this day forward, no person with the surname Tang shall leave Mount Gongsan alive. And Young Myung sat by the fire, surprised by the silence. He had wandered day and night, but he had not met a soul. How could this be possible? The boy ate the meat and pondered. He didn't expect it to be set up so cleverly. Could it be that the other survivors were people from the Jaegel family? Young Myeon frowned. It was unlikely that the Tang clan would cooperate with the Jaegels. But if those would help with the competition, they would gain an advantage. A hunch dawned on him. If Jaegel strengthened their influence now, they would be able to dictate terms to the Tang family in the future. That's right, that man. Somewhere in the shadows, a man from the Jaegel family flinched. Did he feel threatened? The price for such arrogance will be unbearable, he thought. Young Myeon lay down to rest, looking up at the beautiful night sky. He thought of his mom, how sad it was that she couldn't see this beauty now. Suddenly he jumped up. The calm disappeared, giving way to tension. He'd found someone. Or, someone had found him. Someone was getting closer. The girl? She set a condition. Find the last survivor or Young Myeon himself when he was vulnerable. She looked at Young Myeon. He didn't look like a Kunlun, a spy. However, there was something about him. The girl thought for a moment. Suddenly she noticed that the guy was quite handsome. A fleeting thought flashed through her mind, but she quickly pushed it away. On second thought. Could it be Jaegel Changshin's grandson? He could very well look like that. It's a bit of a shame, but there's no other way. She took out a poison pill. He has to die too. Those are the rules of the game. She walked out to Young Myeon, coldly informing him that the competition would end when he was alone, and added that he should have prepared himself. Young Myeon raised an eyebrow in surprise. He looked back at her and boldly asked if she herself was ready. Then it hit him. He asked sharply, wasn't she the one who conspired with the Jaegel family? His eyes threw lightning bolts. Young Myeon blamed her. While the others were fighting, she was hiding in a warm corner, planning to sneakily attack the last survivor. Right? Young Myeon grabbed her by the throat, demanding to know what kind of deal she'd made. The girl was horrified. Did this guy really know? He coldly ordered her to answer quickly and honestly if she wanted more breath. The threat in his voice left no doubt. The grip intensified. The girl gasped. Young Myeon decided she didn't want to breathe. She cursed herself for dropping the blade. Suddenly, she recognized him. With her eyes wide open, she whispered his name. Tang Youngmyong? Recognition mixed with fear. The girl didn't understand. How did this bastard know her name? Anger and confusion fought within her as she tried to break free. Youngmyeon looked into her eyes. He asked if she remembered how he had already made her face like that, and her temper didn't seem to have changed. He grinned, offering to mutilate her entire face this time. His words were full of icy menace and old resentment. At this time, the man from the Jagal family clutched his head in despair as he watched the failure through the water mirror. Their plan had collapsed. He lamented that number 28 was defeating even the strongest enemies. He remembered how he himself had eliminated all but number 2. At least number 10 quickly dispatched his opponents. But it all went down when number 28 showed up. The end. The man from Jagal thought for a moment. Did numbers 2 and 10 even have a chance? Could they have defeated Youngmyong at all? The girl who defeated number 10 clenched her fists. She hadn't realized how long it would take to kill him. Jagal nervously bit his fingernail. If number 28 won, their entire cunning plan would be ruined. What to do? Suddenly, the water mirror flashed brightly, revealing Mount Gongsan. This light? It emitted an incredible amount of life force. Meanwhile, Elder Tang Seokjong and Head Mak, Jong Yongsong, were looking at Mount Gongsan. The elder turned to his ally. Jong Yeonsong, Head Mak, frowned, asking if they had gathered a lot of forces against some Tang clan freaks. He looked around his warriors with pride. There were over 200 of their disciples alone. An impressive force stood at the ready, and if we added the troops of the other breakaway factions, the number would be over 300. A formidable army was marching towards the Tang clan. Elder Tang Seokchan recognized that this was a lot, but it was a necessary measure because Gongsan Mountain is the territory of the local Gong sect. The power of the Gong sect was no match for the power of the weakened Tang clan. The elder knew they would be defeated if they brought few troops. Jung Yeon-sung explained his strategy. With such an army, the Gong sect would only watch cautiously. Knowing that the target wasn't them, the sect would remain aloof. Elder Tang Seokchan inquired of Head Mak about the infiltrator they had infiltrated into the competition. Head Mak was shocked. He bitterly reported that the infiltrator had failed. That kid he cared so much about was dead. Jung Young-sun interrupted him, saying that enough talk, it was time to end it. Elder Seokjong wondered why this blabbermouth was here. A man from Jegal overheard the conversation. They had mentioned a spy. He realized that he had a duty to inform his own and take action immediately. He looked at the water mirror. If the enemies killed number 28, they would no longer have anything to fear being exposed. Tang Youngmyong was struggling in Youngmyong's grip. She couldn't believe that she didn't recognize this scum right away. Fury was boiling inside her. The thought of using Dragon Flame flashed through her mind, but she hesitated. Youngmyeon, on the other hand, noticed her poisoned blade on the ground. He asked the girl if she was poisoned, pointing to her blade. It was the first time he had seen such a strange, bright red poison. Tang Youngmyeon noticed that Youngmyeon was distracted by the blade. This was her chance. She quickly reached for her vial of poison. Trying to break free, she reached for the vial and mockingly asked him silently. Was he trying in vain to hold her? Youngmyeon snatched the vial. He asked if it was poison. Noting that the color was the same as on the blade, he wondered if she had a lot of it. The grip on Tang Youngmyeon's throat intensified. Youngmyeon asked again if she would continue to remain silent. The tension was rising. He grinned evilly and asked her if she wanted a repeat of last time. The girl screamed in panic, begging him to let go. Youngmyeon stated as the girl finally spoke. The girl shouted in desperation for him to stop, promising to tell him everything. But he was adamant. He said that now she would test her own poison. Cold determination was in his eyes. He recognized the poison. It was the Tang clan's special poison, Hwaryangho, the same one they were so fond of using on others. Tang Young was terrified. The Tang clan's special poison? She knew that this kind of poison couldn't be used carelessly. Youngmyeon contemptuously called the poison her elixir. He mockingly asked how it could be used so wastefully for nothing. The girl was in tears, begging to be released, saying that she had told everything and was surrendering. Fear and despair mingled on her face, but Youngmyeon coldly replied that no, he would help her fight the others. He clenched her jaws, preventing her from objecting. The young man said that he hadn't heard everything yet. Demanded the truth. Is she really related to the Jiggle clan? The grip became stronger. Youngmyeon ordered me to tell him what kind of pact binds them. Otherwise, he would feed her that poison. His eyes glittered with icy menace. Tang Youngmyeon quickly confessed. She was promised marriage if Jagel and Tang's families united. She dreamed of being together for the rest of her days. Youngmyeon understood. It was about getting engaged to the next head of the SEO family. That was her secret deal. Her motive. Youngmyeon thought that this fool had gotten an offer she never dreamed of, and she'd colluded to get it. Youngmyeon wondered what to do with her. Kill her? Hit her? Instead, he brought her vial of poison to his lips. Tang Youngmyeon asked in horror what he was doing. Youngmyeon calmly replied so she wouldn't look that way, he wouldn't share, and drank the contents. She was shocked. Hwa Youngho's poison. She couldn't believe her eyes. Youngmyeon really drank it. Horror distorted her face. Suddenly, Youngmyeon was engulfed in flames. But he only calmly noticed that the poison tasted like strawberries. The power began to surge within him. Tang Youngmyeon thought to himself, what kind of moron drinks the Tang clan's poison? It's pure suicide. How could he do that? She knew that even the strongest poison neutralization techniques were powerless against Hwa Youngho. Youngmyeon had to die. But why doesn't his grip weaken? He drank the deadly poison. Tang Youngmyeon didn't understand anything, fear gripping her. Youngmyeon finally let go of her. She recoiled, gulping for air. He was so sharp, this guy. How is that even possible? Tang Youngmyeon looked at Youngmyeon with all her eyes, unable to believe what was happening. Could it be? Is he really one of those people? In the Tang clan, there were legends of people immune to poisons. They were considered myths, creatures beyond poison's control. The old people said that this ability was real. It can't be, Tang Youngmyeon whispered in horror. Is Youngmyeon really one of them? Youngmyeon felt different. The sensation was new. With the Tang clan's special poison, it was as if he had mastered the Yang martial art. A golden glow enveloped his body. This was how the power of the 10 Suns felt? This incredible power permeated the young man. Youngmyeon turned to the defeated girl sitting on the ground. He said she was good for something. He let her go. Youngmyeon looked up at the sky. It was midnight, but it was shining brightly as if the sun had risen. A strange and mesmerizing sight. Tang Youngmyeon was confused. Everything was happening too fast for her to realize what was going on around her. Streams of energy swirled around the girl. Was it really over? Had the battle ended so abruptly? Youngmyeon became wary. He sensed strangers, a whole crowd of them. There were at least 200 of them. The threat was approaching. He frowned. Too many people, it looked suspicious. Something wasn't right here. Youngmyeon pondered. Jagel would definitely notice such a crowd. Were the enemies themselves walking into his hands? He grinned. Well, good. Now he'd have someone to brawl with. He was ready for another fight. Youngmyeon's eyes were burning with determination. He knew that there would only be one winner in this battle. And he intended to be the winner. Tang Chokhui turned sharply to the messenger, startled by his words. He asked again, not believing his ears. The messenger confirmed, trespassing. And worse, ganja was mentioned. The situation was critical. Tang Chokhui demanded details. The messenger reported about 300 warriors, and they were led by a known and dangerous enemy of the clan. Mak Inhu, Tai Ulmuk, the head of the Tai Ul sect, personally led the invasion. It was unexpected and extremely dangerous. Tang Wonjin was shocked. Tai Il, they're in Sacheon. How did they know about this secret place? Betrayal? Tang Chokhui ordered immediate action. Stop them. But his assistant hesitated, sensing that something was wrong. It was Master Jagel. He admitted that he had never imagined such a turn of events. His face expressed worry. He explained, the enemies had infiltrated the competition arena. That meant they could not interfere without breaking the rules. Tang Chokhui looked into the distance. The only hope now was for the remaining participants. One could only hope that those who survived the deadly battle of Yadgu could survive this surprise attack as well. Someone found a wounded Tang Chonil lying on the ground without strength. He was weak. Kid? The warrior who found him whispered. Tang Wanjin looked around at Chonil. He assumed they were on the right track. The wound was from a poison needle. Tang Chokhui listened. There were no signs of battle. The attack was sudden and sneaky. Was it really the work of the Mak head? Elder Tang Xiaochan was furious. Because of the vile poison, his secret son could not die like a warrior. Elder Tang Xiaochan, seething with rage, ordered to search everywhere. He was eager to find these rats of the Tang clan. The warriors scattered through the forest. The elder was sure that someone had already spotted them and was definitely hiding somewhere nearby. He loudly swore, "No one on this mountain with the surname Tang would be left alive." His rage was boundless. The two warriors were whispering. One noticed that their leader seemed upset. The other agreed. Such bloodthirstiness was rare. They remembered the body they had seen earlier. Could it have been the head spy? That thought made them freeze. One of them was pondering the evidence. The corpse had only marks on its neck. Even a strong poison wouldn't have killed instantly. He realized why the Tang clan was so feared. No matter how strong a warrior was, they could take his life insidiously and quickly. The master warned the apprentice to remember this if he had to face them. The disciple zealously assured him that he would remember. Suddenly the master called out to his apprentice, but he froze. He saw the needle flying towards him. Deadly danger. It was a trap. The warriors around them shrieked, urging everyone to raise their swords and prepare to fight. One of the warriors shouted furiously into the darkness, summoning the cowardly attacker to come out and fight with honor. But instead of answering, thousands of poisonous green needles rained down from the sky. The deadly downpour rained down on them. The warrior looked up in horror. He couldn't believe his eyes. Such a massive and sneaky attack. Young Mian observed the result. The poison flame palm technique was exceptionally deadly as he had expected. Thanks to the Shiridan, a needle-throwing device, the shots were effortless. It was the perfect combination. The bodies of the defeated enemies were lying around. Young Myong calmly suggested that Tang Young Myong look for those who had gone east. The girl was reporting to the enemy leaders. She was asked if everyone had been killed. She confidently confirmed. The leaders examined the bodies. There were no signs of struggle, only needle pricks. Same poison as on the first corpse. There could be no mistake. The messengers have come with terrible news. The Western detachment has been destroyed, followed by the cry that the Eastern squad had also fallen. Panic gripped the leaders. Elder Tang Sokchan's face distorted. Not a single group had survived. This only meant one thing. The enemy was incredibly strong. Zheng Yongsung grimly stated, only an hour had passed, and almost 100 of their men had been killed in the same dastardly way. The losses were enormous. Elder Tang Xiaochan suggested in shock, is it possible that all of them were killed by just one man? Mak Inhu shook his head. If he were alone, it would be worse. He realized that this was no ordinary warrior. A true master of the Tang clan had intervened. Mak Inhu realized the terrible truth. They were being hunted. He clenched his fist and handed over command to Zheng Yongsun. Mak Inhu explained, the attacker uses ghost techniques. He decided to protect the rear. Zheng Yongsun questioned, but Mak Inhu was adamant. He couldn't lose another disciple. He said he was counting on Zheng Yongsun. Zheng Yongsun looked around. There was an oppressive silence, no sign of the enemy. It was even more tense. The sun was setting, and it would soon be dark. Zheng Yongsun realized that if they didn't find the ambush before dark, they were all dead. He thought they were taking heavy casualties. Maybe they should have temporarily retreated and regrouped. Zheng Yongsung made a decision. He loudly announced to his men that they were leaving in an hour. It was necessary to rescue those who were left behind. Suddenly, Young Mian appeared on the branch. He calmly said that he hadn't decided whether to let them go yet. His appearance was a complete surprise. Zheng Yunsung was shocked to the core. He didn't feel a thing. Gods, how could the enemy appear so stealthily? The commander shouted in panic to his soldiers to take cover immediately. But it was too late. No one even noticed. The deadly needles rained down on the warriors, killing them. Young Myong calmly looked at the fallen Zheng Yon and asked if he was the leader here. His gaze was cold. Zheng Yansung couldn't believe it. He had been on guard the whole time, but he hadn't noticed this young man approaching at all. Young Myeon looked at the chaos he had caused. He confirmed Zheng Yun's unspoken horror. Yes, he must have caused the massacre. The commander couldn't believe his eyes. This guy didn't look like a learned master, so how could he be so powerful? Suddenly, Young Myeon used a technique. The needles in his hand glowed green. Zheng Myeon was shocked. Was it really void absorption? No, it can't be. Zheng Yunsung refused to believe it. Only a supreme master who had reached enlightenment could possess such a technique. Young Myan collected the needles, but was in no hurry to attack again. Jung Young-sun realized the technique was very energy-consuming. He stepped forward without taking advantage of the suddenness. How arrogant. Jung Young-sung recognized that the young man had amazing abilities. The commander said he had never heard of him in the Tang clan. Young Myan only shrugged his shoulders, asking what difference it made. The young man coldly said that the person who was going to die today didn't need to know his name. His eyes were filled with icy determination. Jung Yun-sung roared with rage. This kid was looking for death. He clenched his fists, preparing to fight. He lunged at Young Myan, vowing to kill him right now. The fierce blow was going to crush the impudent youngster. But Young Myan easily deflected his punch. Jung Young-sun was shocked. How could he deflect his high-power technique so easily? Young Myan asked with a chuckle. Was that really the maximum of his strength? He offered his opponent another try. He told Jung Young-sun to gather his strength. He froze, amazed at his audacity. The commander remembered the past. After the fall of his Chumchan faction, he had voluntarily joined the Black Death Alliance. The head admired his palm technique. The alliance head asked for permission to refine this technique in his hands. Jung Yun-sung met the head on the first day. His palm-top shaking technique had undergone a change. It became more powerful, capable of splitting the earth. But the head of the alliance didn't like the name at all. He decided that the technique should be more majestic. Let the technique reach the heavens. This was the name of the Black Death Alliance's new technique, Heaven-Shaking Palms. Jung Yun-sung clenched his fists. But this technique bestowed by the head of the alliance. Wasn't that simple? Young Myan watched carefully. Jung Young-sung's attack contained the dragon's breath of fire, the most dangerous of all fire poisons. Young Myan knew. If one took control of the poison with the poison madness aura, the poisonous ki, like the chi of a sword, would soak everything around. Heaven-shaking palm. Their fists collided with terrifying force, releasing streams of fiery and poisonous energy. Young Myan retreated after the punch, assessing his opponent's strength. He recognized that Jung Young-sung was not bad, but clearly not his equal. The boy felt a new power. The power of the poison he drank had turned into flames. He decided to call this technique the Fiery River of Poison. Young Myan glanced resolutely at the remaining enemies. He asked menacingly, who else among them couldn't wait to be burned alive? One of Tai Yulmuk's warriors snapped angrily. He shouted that no one would get out of here alive, so they had better die first. All of a sudden, Mak In-hoo appeared. He recognized Young Myan in a rage and accused him of killing the students, the commander, and his young son. Anger distorted Mak In-hoo's face. He swore that he wouldn't leave even ashes of Young Myan anywhere in the world. Mak In-hoo gave orders to his men. He told them to use the Charyun formation and immediately surround this impudent youngster. Young Myan looked at his enemies in surprise. They decided to focus on depleting his strength, hoping to overpower him in numbers. Mak In-hoo thought back to his losses. He had lost many students and allies, but the grief of losing his youngest was unbearable. He swore that their sacrifice would not be in vain. With burning eyes, he declared that he would personally destroy this boy. The enemy formation reminded Young Myan of his training days. He remembered how he had created a crazy spinning line dance back then. Suddenly, one of the enemies shouted in panic. Young Myan had disappeared. He urged everyone to be on guard. Young Myan moved among the enemies like a ghost, leaving behind only bloody footprints and falling bodies. The dance of death had begun. Mak In-hoo was shocked. What? He didn't notice his movements at all. How is that possible? One of the warriors lunged at Young Myan, shouting that he would pay for the death of his brothers. His fury gave him courage. Young Myan easily brushed it off, advising him not to swing his swords in vain. A dark energy enveloped his hand. The warrior whispered the word destruction in horror. He couldn't believe his eyes. What kind of demon was standing in front of him? The enemy's swords shattered into pieces without even touching Young Myan. The destruction technique shattered the blades into dust. The young man controlled the release of power. Shards of blades flew apart, creating a danger zone around him. The enemies screamed in terror. How is this possible? They had never seen anything like this. Their morale was broken. Young Myan once again rushed into battle. He thought that it might not be the greatest rain of heavenly colors, but it was still deadly. Young Myan stood in the middle of the carnage. He decided to call this horrible technique the Iron Shard Hail. The boy turned to Mak In. He asked, since his men were exhausted, Was it not time for him to intervene himself? Mak Yinghu was ready to fight. He angrily shouted out that he would see how long this boy would last. The sect leader was confident. With his pair blade technique and silent sword from the Alliance head, there was nothing to fear. Mak Yinhu vowed to wipe the young man out again. Young Myan only quietly remarked that this was the second time he had heard these words. Mak Inhu unleashed a flurry of punches at Young Myan. It was the dance of pair blades and 10 attacks of the silent sword. He swung for the decisive attack. The final strike of the silent sword, a technique of the Dark Moon Sword sect. But Young Myan repelled his powerful technique with just one short sword. Mak Inhu was simply shocked. Young Myan calmly explained that he was not bad with a sword. He could easily count his opponent's next moves. Mak Inhu couldn't believe it. Was such a thing possible? A dark energy enveloped Young Myan's blade. The sect head asked, gasping in astonishment, how on earth did this guy manage to deal with the silent sword? Young Myan grinned. He asked, was it really called a silent sword? It only had destructive ki in it. The guy added that it wasn't difficult to control that kind of energy. Mak Inhu was stunned. What had he just heard? Mak Inhu thought that he had only managed it himself after becoming a master. Was it easy for this youngster? Unbelievable. He remembered the spy killed by Young Myan. He used the same technique. Was that guy from the Tai Yul Mook sect? Young Myan admitted that he didn't know much about the enemy. But he knew for sure that he was under the Black Death Alliance. Guy recalled that the head of the alliance had honed the allies' arts to fit each one individually. That was why the alliance was trusted by both rulers and peasants. Mak Inhu didn't understand what the young man was getting at. Young Myan said he was disappointed with his puny technique. After all, anyone could have handled it. And Mak Inhu used it against him. Young Myan grinned. It looked like the alliance leader didn't have much hope for him, did he? Young Myan condescendingly said that Mak Inhu had done all he could for the little brat. Now he'll show what he can do on his own. The guy grinned, advising his opponent to watch carefully and try not to drop his jaw. Mak Inhu incredulously interjected, would the young man show what he could do? He could not believe such self-confidence. Young Myan explained that for warriors who had achieved supremacy, the length of the blade didn't matter. The blade glowed. Suddenly, Young Myan attacked. Powerful streams of energy burst out from his short blade, tearing up the ground in front of the enemy. Mak Yinghu thought that the power of the silent sword was special. But even it was powerless in front of such a flood of blades. He realized the young man easily controlled the sword chi and used the flow of blades. So, he had reached the final stage of mastery. Young Myan glanced coldly at his enemy, asking if it was that important. The decisive moment of their battle had come. Mak Inhu tried to escape. Young Myan called him nasty and reminded him that he couldn't escape from the competition area. He added that if Mak Inhu got caught, he would be finished anyway. There was no point in running away. Young Myan took out the gold rings, said that he should now finish off the opponent with the Tang clan's special family method. Mak Inhu rushed out in terror and fled. This was impossible. Who in the Tang clan could raise such a horrible monster? How could a top-level master appear in a declining dynasty? The head of the alliance will not sit idly by. The golden rings whistled past, slicing through the trees. Mak Inhu was shocked by their destructive power. He realized that these tiny rings cut through thick trunks like tofu, and at such an incredible speed. Mak Inhu realized that he couldn't get rid of these rings by simply running away. We'll have to take the fight to them. He gritted his teeth, filled with despair. No, he couldn't die like this. His whole life flashed before his eyes. Mak Inhu cried out in pain as one of the rings struck the hilt of his sword. The blade cracked. The sect head roared in pain and rage, but triumphantly shouted that he had repelled all the attacks. He had stood his ground. Bleeding profusely, he roared that Mak Yinghu wouldn't die so easily from such cheap tricks. His will was unbroken. He lost his arm, but his anger was giving him strength. As long as he was alive, the future wasn't lost yet. He decided that the bastard had expended a lot of energy. Young Myan calmly walked up to him. He asked sarcastically, what, praise him now for his steadfastness? Mak Inhu was shocked. Even after such a difficult technique, the guy wasn't tired at all? How is that possible? Suddenly, the sect leader cried out in horror. The shurikens that were lying on the ground started spinning again, rising into the air. The rings swirled around Young Myan in a deadly vortex. Mak Inhu remembered leaving everything behind and joining the alliance for glory. He realized his utter defeat. He couldn't even lay a finger on that boy. What was he thinking? Young Myeon looked at the defeated enemy. He asked, "Is that really all there is to it?" He added that he was able to test the power of his techniques quite well. He picked up the broken rings. He decided that when he became the head of the clan, he would teach this technique to his subordinates. Young Myeon sighed contentedly. He thought that it was probably safe to leave now, although there would still be a lot to do after he left. He remembered his enemies, the elders who had cornered his mother, and the cunning Jaegel family that had tried to take over the Tang clan. He's going to take care of everyone. An eye for an eye. His eyes flashed with determination, and his blade glowed with green energy. Meanwhile, outside, Tang Chokhui asked Master Jagal in despair, "Is there really nothing that can be done at all?" Master Jagal regretfully replied that it was impossible to interfere for the sake of justice. He had never imagined that things would turn out like this, but to himself he thought otherwise. It was all a lie, but until the deed was done, it was necessary to keep silent. He knew. The entrance was completely sealed after they entered. No one could leave the contest area alive. After questioning the captured fugitives, it was confirmed. The invaders had indeed gotten in. The identities of the invaders were revealed to be Mak In-hu of the Dark Moon Sword Sect and Commander Jong Young-song, the two most dangerous enemies. Master Jaegel thought that against 300 warriors, even number 28 had a slim chance of surviving. It was a pity to waste such talent, but Young Myeon couldn't be allowed to interfere with their plans. The future of the clan would be others. The observers outside suddenly felt a familiar and powerful energy. What is it? Surprise and anxiety swept over them. Tang Yuri shrieked with joy. It was Young Myeon. Tang Wanjin nodded in agreement. He knew this guy wouldn't give up. Tang Yuri ran up, excitedly asking if he was injured. Young Myeon asked with a smile if they were worried because he had already said, only they could hurt. Master Jagal was completely terrified. 300 warriors. The great Mak In-hu and Jong Young-song. Couldn't they handle this little bastard? He just refused to believe it. How could this even happen? It was ruining all his plans. How the hell could this little guy cut through the powerful phantom dome of the 7 castles? What kind of power was behind this? Master Jagal remembered the indestructible domes. One was on his squad, the other surrounded the entire competition area. The most reliable barriers. Normally, even a very experienced craftsman would fall into such a trap. And this youngster just cut through both of them? Unthinkable. A fleeting thought of killing Young Myeon right now flashed through Jaegel. But no, he couldn't compromise himself before he became the young head. Tang Wanjin walked over to Young Myeon, clearly relieved that he was fine. He immediately asked what had happened inside. Suddenly, the ground shook violently. Tang Yuri and her companions cried out in fright. What's that? An earthquake? Someone pointed their finger upwards in horror. Look, a huge rift was appearing in the sky barrier. The barrier was collapsing. Master Jaegel realized the phantom dome of the 7 castles surrounding the competition area was collapsing. His plan was in jeopardy. Shards of the collapsing dome sprinkled down, revealing blurry scenes of battle. One of the warriors saw in them what had happened inside. Young Myeon calmly confirmed the shocked Tang Yuri's guess. They saw everything for themselves. That's what happened there. The battle was brutal. The Tang Chokhui warriors looked around at the fallen enemies around them. Most were wearing the uniforms of the Dark Moon Sword School. Mak In-hu was really leading the army. Tang Wanjin couldn't believe his eyes. Could it be that Young Myeon had single-handedly slaughtered them all? He couldn't even handle 30 by himself? Suddenly, one of the warriors recognized a body with a characteristic double scabbard on its back. From the description, it was Mak In-hu himself. The sect leader has fallen. Tang Chokhui and Tang Wanjin were horrified. Even the mighty Mak In-hu had become someone's victim. How could this have happened? Tang Wanjin looked at Young Myeon, then at the battlefield. He assumed that there were simply too many enemies, their numbers making them easy prey. The instructor realized Young Myeon's level was already much higher than expected of a young head. This was astounding. The others also realized he had reached the highest level. Tang Yuri and Tang Yizhong exclaimed with joy. The title of young head had belonged to him from the beginning. Tang Mirio looked at them with annoyance. She had become a dead weight because of her broken arm, and he was suddenly so strong. It was infuriating. Tang Munchang gritted his teeth in anger. That brat he beat up because he was incapable of learning. And how could he do that? Tang Wanjin loudly announced that the competition was over. The only winner was number 28, Tang Youngmyong. He looked around at everyone and loudly called forward anyone who wished to challenge this result. Tang Munchang only squeezed his bandaged hand. All he could do now was to stand silently, admitting defeat. No one came out. Tang Wanjin nodded in satisfaction. So the result was unanimously accepted. Tang Wanjin solemnly raised his hands and declared the competition officially over. The new leader had been determined. He gave the order to the warriors to gather before the victor, their new young master Tan Youngmyong. A new era was dawning. The warriors lined up in front of him. Tang Yuri awed, unable to believe how many there were. How exciting it was. Tang Wanjin thought excitedly. Finally, after years of decline of the Tang clan, a true leader had emerged. The winner of this competition, Tan Youngmyong, will become the new head of the clan. He would restore the Tang clan to its former glory. Hope flared up again. The warriors knelt down. They recognized Youngmyong as their new master and welcomed the new head of the Tang clan. Tang Miryu and the others were confused. Barely a young head, and he was already being treated like this. It was strange. Miryu asked, confused, did they really have to address him politely now too? Yuri didn't know what to think. Tang Wanjin looked at Youngmyong with respect. With this level at such a young age, he would be able to develop even more. The Tang clan would regain its former honor and power. Tang Wanjin was confident. Youngmyong felt their gazes full of expectation. The young man turned to the warriors. He said he knew what they wanted, and he did not keep them waiting long. He asked them to believe and wait. The warriors were amazed. It was as if he had read their minds. He spoke as gravely as a true lord should. Elder Taiho of the Gondong sect looked around. He wondered if everyone had already left. It was quiet all around. Hyunso, his apprentice, came rushing over out of breath. He said he had arrived as soon as he heard about everything. He excitedly called out to the master. Hyunso blocked the Lord's path. He exclaimed, "Is it possible to leave alone?" It was too dangerous for the elder. The disciple reminded him that now, with his status, the master must behave accordingly. You couldn't take such a risk. Daiho tried to get off the subject. He remarked to Hyunso that he didn't feel anything, and wasn't that strange? The disciple told him not to go off topic. Hyunso looked at the battlefield. He said it would be impossible to sleep next to a mountain of corpses as it was, right? The place was creepy. The disciple added that even he himself would have left the place immediately. The sight of dead bodies was horrifying. Hyunso was surprised that more than 300 people had died. He remembered that an old horse does not spoil the furrow, for Tang was strong. He thought that as far as he knew, there were less than 100 people from the Tang clan on Mount Gondong. Where had the rest gone? Taeho reminded them that Mount Gondung was their faction's domain. They should have reported if something of this magnitude happened. Hyunso asked in surprise, did the gentleman mean to say that they were deliberately avoiding them? That was strange. Taeho wondered. But why would they do such a thing? Besides, the Tang clan had sent them gifts to hold the contest here. He assumed, unless they were hiding something? That was something they didn't know. However, something wasn't right here. Hyunso didn't know that their concealed weapon skill was so high. To kill so many people alone? Daiho confirmed. Yes, amazingly. Alone. What? Alone? Hyunso couldn't believe it. He asked, does the gentleman mean to say that all of this is the work of one person? Taeho calmly replied that his eyes did not deceive him. He had seen enough to be sure. The elder explained, most of them have only thin needle marks. They are easy to remove and reuse. Since the men didn't even have time to draw their weapons, it seemed like seconds. There are hardly a few masters of this caliber. Elder Taiho had made up his mind. He must meet him. He firmly announced that they were going to Sichuan immediately. What? To Sichuan? No way. Hyunso panicked. What if Sir runs into the Alliance people there? Taeho looked at his apprentice reproachfully. He asked if Hyunso had forgotten that his master had long ago reached the pinnacle of skill. Hyunso continued to worry. Daiho assured him that he could protect himself, but the student sadly replied that he himself could not. The disciple gave up after realizing that the Lord's stubbornness was irresistible. He asked, why would the head of Alliance, even get into a battle with him? Hyunso suggested returning to the sect's estate first. Shouldn't he have warned the head of what he'd seen? Daiho agreed. To the south of their Gondong sect was the Black Death Alliance, and to the west was the demon cult. These were difficult times for the sect. Hyunso explained Daeho's plan. The Lord was going to search for the head of the Tang clan who had caused the disaster to confirm that he was not involved. Hyunso thought about the master's plan. Did he want to let the Tang family deal with the alliance and then destroy the demon cult? The Tang clan had been in decline for a long time. Hyunso didn't know if such a risky plan by the Lord would work. He really hoped that the plan would work, and that he wouldn't have to resort to the terrifying technique of the demon taming sword. Meanwhile, Lord Third Elder of the Tang clan received a report. The warriors of the Bonvi squad returned with the participants. The elder put the brush aside. He thought it seemed to be over sooner than they had expected. He pondered over Tang Yongyan. With her skills in Hwaryangho, one of the 10 poisons, it wouldn't be difficult for her to prevail. The elder was almost certain of her victory. But then a helper entered with disturbing news. He turned to the elder. Young Lady Tang Yongyan was not among the returnees. Anxiety hung in the air. Where could she be? The 2 guards at the gate were wondering who would win. Would it be Tang Kyeonlin, disciple of the great elder, or the third one's granddaughter, Tang Yongyan? One of the guards hoped that everyone would return safely. Suddenly, he noticed people approaching. Isn't that the symbol of the Tang clan, and with them, the Bonwi warriors? The guard realized that the contestants had returned. He shouted to the others. In the main courtyard of the Tang clan, everyone was abuzz. To think that the competition was already over. How quickly time had flown by. People were asking each other, who is the winner? Do they know him? Everyone was eagerly waiting for the name to be announced. But then Youngmyeon appeared. The crowd quieted down. Who is he? They had never seen him before. The bewilderment on their faces. The crowd stared in amazement at the new young head. Especially the girls. They couldn't take their eyes off him, blushing embarrassedly. Parents rushed forward, shouting the names of their children. One father was crying for his daughter Sui, rejoicing at her return. Thank the gods, the children were coming back. There was relief on the faces of the relatives, for rumor had it that not all had survived the ordeal. Master Chonal was recognized among the returning participants. He looked a little confused, but alive. The commander looked at Chonil. He seemed pleased, but who knew what awaited him next? It was best not to guess. The square was buzzing with shouts of joy. Parents were finding their children. There was Myung-hoon, and there was Soo-yang. Tears of happiness were flowing, but not all were destined to rejoice. Bitter sobs echoed where parents did not find their children. Hilin, Myungso. They were gone. Youngmyeon saw the grief of the parents of the deceased. He thought of his mom, who was probably going crazy with worry too. He's changed so much since then. What if his mother wouldn't even recognize him when he came back? That thought made him worry, but then he grinned. How much she must be surprised to see him like this. It would be an unforgettable encounter. They approached the general headquarters. The clan elders were already gathered there, ready to greet the new young head. Tan Yuri pointed at the man with glasses. It was her dad. He was relieved to see his daughter alive. Youngmyeon teased Tang Yuri with a chuckle. Did she already beg for a warm place for her daddy from the new boss? Yuri was not embarrassed in the slightest. She honestly admitted that of course she couldn't pass up such an opportunity. She explained that her dad was capable, but he wasn't getting promoted. He just wasn't good at scheming and going head-to-head for a career. That was how her father ran around running errands. Youngmyeon thought it was a good thing for him. He could use honest people. He realized that the people of the elders would be a hindrance when he became strong in power. So he urgently needed to get his own, loyal men. Miryu and Ichjong had to be taken care of as well. He remembered that Ichjong had something to do with the medicine temple. But Miryu was still a mystery. Suddenly there was a loud laughter. It was General Staff Commander Tang Kisam. He was praising the Bonwi warriors and the Jagal clan. Good job. Master Jagal greeted the commander politely. The latter laughed as he clapped Jagal on the shoulder, saying that he was still the same schemer. Commander Tang Kisam thanked Master Jagal profusely. He said he would never forget how much he and his clan had done for the Tang family. Master Jagal modestly replied that they were only helping as much as they could. He tried to hide his true intentions. Tang Kisam exclaimed delightedly, "What would they do without their Seven Castles Phantom Dome?" Thanks to him, he quietly sent the participants away. The commander hesitated, remembering that the dome had been destroyed. Master Jagal awkwardly agreed. Youngmyeon silently observed. Tang Kisam announced that they would now go to the House of Elders to confirm the results. He also dismissed the Banhui warriors to rest. Tang Wanjin stepped forward. He said that they, the Banhui warriors, must have been tired for all these long years. He then politely but firmly apologized and stated that they would not go to the Elder House. Kisame and Jaegel froze in shock. Commander Tang Kisam asked in surprise who he was. Tang Wanjin introduced himself as the temporary commander of the Banhui unit. Tang Kisame asked if he had misheard. Tang Wanjin was really refusing to go to the House of Elders? Unheard of. Wanjin recalled that the conditions of the competition mentioned the Hall of Secret Weapons and Poisons. Wouldn't it be better to go there to check it out? Kisame exploded with anger. Some squad leader dared to tell him, the commander of the general staff, what was best. Disobedience. He vehemently ordered the squad to disband immediately, or else they would be severely punished. Wanjin thought of insubordination. It was forbidden to oppose the will of the elders. It was to be expected, but this was too much. Kisame turned to Wanjin, asking if anyone could have more power than the young head. But then Youngmyeon intervened. Kisame asked sharply who he was. The young man replied calmly with a chuckle that he was the winner of this very contest. At the House of Elders, Kisame reported the results. One of the elders asked impatiently, who was the winner? The third elder jumped up in a rage. Impossible. He couldn't believe his ears. How dare that bastard beat Youngyeon? He was furious. Hwar Young-ho's poison wouldn't leave ashes on him. She couldn't use it? The great elder of Sichuan Tang, Tang Seokjun, was thinking. And his disciple Kunlin? Had he, too, lost to this Youngmyeon? Seokjun remembered Youngmyeon. He recognized his qualities, though he didn't believe that the title of young clan head would belong to him. Elder Tang Seokjun recalled. He saw this Youngmyeon before the tournament and immediately thought that he could not defeat his disciple. He slapped the table in anger. Couldn't Youngmyeon have surpassed the others so much in 3 years? It was definitely some kind of trickery. The second elder, Tang Myongshin, intervened. They decided to forget the past, but here they had to get to the truth. How did Youngmyeon win? The fourth elder, Tang Jiryong, agreed. This bastard couldn't defeat all the strongest ones. It was simply impossible. Tang Seokjun calmed down. Since there were questions, he needed answers. He asked, where is Tang Youngmyeon now? Commander Tang Kisam nervously reported. He was invited to the House of Elders. However, the young man refused to comply. Kisam explained the rules. Only the clan head could give orders to the young heir. The Council of Elders had no right to speak on his behalf. Youngmyeon then calmly asked Kisama what insubordination he was talking about. His insolence made the commander mad. Kisame shouted furiously that Youngmyeon hadn't been recognized as the young head yet, but he thought to himself, that bastard turned out to be the winner. The commander was afraid of Youngmyeon's revenge. He tried to pressure him, saying that he couldn't go against the will of the powerful elders. But Youngmyeon had released his power. A green aura enveloped Kisama. He realized in horror that he shouldn't have made that boy angry. Youngmyeon stated that they don't care about the opinion of the elders. They will go to the secret weapons and poisons hall as stated in the conditions. Then he ordered Kisama in an icy tone to tell the elders their authority had come to an end. It was a direct challenge to their authority. One of the elders couldn't believe his ears. Ordering them, the elders, to come by themselves? Did Youngmyeon really say that? Kisam, trembling, confirmed it. Yes, that's what he said. He could not even convey his exact words, so bold were they. The third elder slammed his fist on the table in anger. How dare this pathetic little boy treat them like this? Tang Seokjun shouted that even Poison Phoenix, Youngmyeon's mother, was courteous in their presence. And this puppy was allowing himself to do such a thing. But then Seokjun had a thought. This could have played into their hands. Youngmyeon hadn't been officially recognized yet. They would use his attitude and eliminate him. The elders agreed. They'll go to the secret weapons hall if that's what he wants. They'll look at that impertinent puppy. Immediately, orders were given to the elders' military units. The Great Guard, the Second Squad, all prepared to march into the hall. The units of the elders, Poison Blade and Dusk, were given orders. They were told to accompany the elders as instructed. Elder Tang Seokjun called out loudly to the Blue Dragon commander. He immediately appeared and asked why he had been summoned. The elder ordered the commander and his Blue Dragon squad to follow them. The commander agreed without question. The huge procession of elders and their guards moved forward. Tang Seokjun pondered. Youngmyeon dared to challenge their authority. Elder Tang Seokjun was full of determination. They are the power in the Tang clan. They will bring this impertinent youngster down from the sky. In the secret weapons hall, the great head of the Dark King clan, Tang Chok Hui, asked Young Myung in surprise, did he really win the competition? Young Myeon confirmed with a smile that Chuki had heard everything correctly. Yes, he was the winner. Tang Chok Hui remembered. Even when Young Myung was little, he had sensed something different about him. But now that feeling was incomparably stronger. The great head of the Poison King clan, Tang Ji-hyuk, Tang Munchang's father, was shocked. He couldn't believe that Young Myeon had won. Tang Ji-hyuk remembered how he had told Young Myeon before the competition that he wouldn't win. He'd be lucky if he didn't just die. He also threatened that it was the price for his son Moonshan's mangled hand. He promised that after the competition, Young Myeon and his mother would pay for everything. Tang Ji-hyuk then added gloatingly that it wouldn't be 4 years before they would pay for everything. Revenge was so close. Young Myeon looked directly at Ji-hyuk. He said, as the man said, 4 years hadn't gone by, except that it didn't work to make anyone pay. Tang Ji-hyuk looked shocked. Young Myeon advised him to henceforth watch everything he said and did in the clan. The young man coldly threatened, or else his precious son could easily lose his other hand. The threat was very explicit. Tang Ji-hyuk finally realized it. He exclaimed in shock, "So Young Myeon is the son of the Poison Phoenix? That's it." Young Myeon calmly told Ji-hyuk that he probably has a lot of questions, but they'll discuss everything later. Tang Wonjin wondered, is Young Myeon really her son? If that was the case, then everything made a whole new meaning. He remembered the past. It all happened because the Demon Lord had encroached on their mistress Poison Phoenix. Suddenly, a mysterious cloaked figure appeared in the midst of the chaos and fire. She asked, "Are they still not finished?" The warrior was shocked to recognize the figure that had appeared. Uh-oh, if it wasn't the clan head himself? His appearance was a complete surprise. Tang Wanjin recalled the previous battle. The Tang clan had fought back much harder than the enemies had expected. The battle had been fierce. The warriors of the Tang clan were not afraid of the enemy's poisons. They fearlessly dashed forward, ready to die but not retreat. They took up their defenses and asked the elders for reinforcements. Wonjin was worried. By risking his men, the clan might be in decline. But the elders refused. Tang Wonjin thought bitterly. If they had sent help, then how many casualties could have been avoided? And when it was over, the elders shamelessly blamed it on Poison Phoenix, screaming that she ruined the family. She could not oppose them. And in spite of all the injustice, Tang Jihye accepted the renunciation to protect her child. Tang Wonjin looked at his warriors. He believed that they too had realized what kind of man their new lord was. Those who could not fulfill their duty then were given another chance to serve the clan under a worthy leader. And this time, they definitely wouldn't fail. Tang Wonjin was determined. No more injustice from the elders. Suddenly, someone else appeared in the hall. Young Myeon and Tang Chok-hui turned around in surprise. Who could it be? It was Elder Tang Seokjun and his troops. He turned menacingly to the Banwi warriors. Did they really decide to? Did they think they could get away with disobeying the elders? He angrily demanded that Tang Youngmyeong be brought to him. Tang Wonjin remained calm. The elders appeared as their young master had expected. Everything went according to his plan. Wonjin was surprised that the elders had mobilized all their forces. Did they really feel that their position was threatened? Elder Tang Seokjun angrily repeated his order. Did he not make himself clear? Bring Tang Youngmyeong to him immediately. But then Youngmyeon's calm voice sounded behind him. He told the elder not to make a fuss because he was already here. Tang Chok-hui was shocked. The third elder? Are the others here as well? He asked Youngmyeon. Wasn't the latter at the elder house? Elder Seokjun turned around, glaring angrily at the young man. He shouted, "How dare he call himself the head without getting their approval?" Youngmyeon calmly stepped forward. He said that he had already proved his right by winning the tournament. And now he would confirm everything in this hall. The young man looked coldly at Elder Seokjun. He asked him what else he wanted. The elder was dumbfounded by the young man's insolence. The other elder immediately exploded. He shouted that it wasn't for nothing that they were talking about Youngmyeon's bad temper. How dare he treat the elders like that? Seokjun's eyes glittered as he demanded that Youngmyeon give a detailed account. If he wanted to live, he had to tell everything about the competition. Youngmyeon grinned, noting that it was said as if the tournament was secret. But how easily, it turned out, the elders themselves were overstepping the clan's laws. The elder roared, "Did Youngmyeon really think he had taken unfair advantage? Youngmyeon replied that head Jiggle had told him everything. Tang Chok-hui and Tang Ji-hyuk were astonished. Youngmyeon explained about the intervention of Mak In-hu and the 300 Alliance warriors. What kind of honesty is that? Youngmyeon calmly stated the facts. Tang Kunlin and Tang Youngmyeon killed the other contestants, and he killed 2 of them, thus ending the competition. The young man added that the outsiders had intervened afterward, so in terms of fairness. The elder rudely interrupted him. What did he say, boy? Shrouded in dark energy, Seokjun menacingly interjected. Who killed whom? Killed? Fury contorted his face. Youngmyeon suggested that the elder go to Mount Gondung and see for himself if he didn't believe his words. The proof was there. He added that the bodies were still there, unless of course the Gondung clan had already removed them. Seokjun roared in rage. Die! Youngmyeon asked with icy calmness. Is it really so hard to believe that his favorite granddaughter is dead? He had hit the sorest spot. Then Youngmyeon decided to prove it. His hand flashed with green energy. He was ready to demonstrate his strength. The elder blocked Youngmyeon's poisonous attack. One touch of that toxin would deprive one of sight and hearing. And the youngster blocked it so easily? Seokjun was horrified. Did this boy's inner strength really surpass his own? Impossible. The elder repelled the attack with a powerful burst of energy. He roared with rage. Dare Youngmyeon make fun of an elder? But then Youngmyeon pulled out a familiar red vial. The elder asked in shock, where did he get it from? He recognized the artifact. Youngmyeon grinned, asking if it was a familiar item. Tang Wanjin and the rest of the warriors were confused. The elder must have been confused. The young man calmly explained where he got the bottle of poison that the elder had personally given to his granddaughter before the competition. He looked the elder in the eyes. After all, this was one of the Tang family's 10 poisons. The evidence was irrefutable. Tang Wanjin turned to the young master excitedly, asking about the bottle. Youngmyeon calmly confirmed that it was fire dragon poison. Elder Seokjun remembered the fiery energy of the vial. He thought, wasn't it the 3rd elder who disposed of the 10 poisons? No way. Youngmyeon asked the Banhui warrior, Tang Wanjin, if it was allowed to use the Tang family's valuable 10 poisons for personal use. Wanjin replied firmly, absolutely not. These poisons are so dangerous that even a very experienced warrior can't handle them. Since the method of manufacture is lost and the poisons are few, their value is immense. Wanjin explained that they are more valuable than gold and silver. Using them for personal use was punishable by death. The 3rd elder shouted in rage, how dare he say that? Youngmyeon grinned. Threatening an elder with execution? That's unheard of. Getting rid of them, rather, he added. Exactly. He turned their words against them. Youngmyeon told Elder Seokjun that even though he was an elder, he couldn't get around the clan's laws. The rules were for everyone. But at least that one will die with honor. Youngmyeon's hand flashed with fire. He was ready to carry out the sentence. The granddaughter was already waiting for the elder in the next life. Youngmyeon unleashed a powerful fire attack on him without giving him a chance. The young man turned to all the elders. They are the rotten roots of the Tang clan. Their time to rule has come to an end. And it wasn't up to them to decide who should be the head. Youngmyeon declared that he would decide where he belonged. He defied all the old authorities. Tang Wanjin was shocked to the core. This was a real coup. No one would dare to stand up against the elders like this. The fate of the Tang clan could change right here and now. Tension hung in the air. Another elder shouted angrily at the guards. What were they looking at? A criminal dared to attack the life of an elder and they couldn't stop him. Suddenly, a dark figure appeared behind Seokjun. It asked the Grand Elder if he knew that his disciple was trying to destroy the clan. Seokjun perplexedly interjected, what was the man talking about? The figure asked, did the elder really know nothing about the betrayal? The stranger revealed the truth. Seokjun's disciple Kunlin was a spy of the Dark Moon Sword sect. The elder roared, what nonsense is this? Youngmyeon calmly added that it wasn't nonsense. Everyone knew that the Dark Moon Sword sect had invaded the competition grounds. Seokjun asked sarcastically, did Youngmyeon really want to say that Gyeonlin was in cahoots with the enemies? He demanded for proof. Tang Chonil came forward covered in scars. He said that he had gotten them in the fight with Kyunlin before Youngmyeon came to help. Chonil showed his wounds to the elders. He shouted that such injuries couldn't be inflicted by poisons or the Tang clan's hidden techniques. He explained, Kyunlin was fighting with a blade. Chonil remembered that fight. He didn't immediately realize that his opponent was using a sword technique. Seokjun listened, but hesitated. Chonil suggested that Kunlin had used paired blades. The elder dismissed it as speculation, but another elder confirmed it. He had seen Mak Inhu, the Dark Moon Sword sect leader, fighting from afar. The technique was similar. This elder added, the bodies of Mak Inhu's victims were horribly mutilated, but the wounds of the survivors were very similar to Chonil's scars. Chonil confirmed the elder's words. He said that before he killed him, Kunlin confessed that he was a spy and called himself Mak Ingik. A whisper went through the crowd. Mak Ingik? That abandoned bastard from the maid? Then it was all true. Youngmyeon looked at Chanyol. He said that he wanted to bring him as a witness, but he didn't think he would come forward on his own. Chanyol replied that Youngmyeon had saved his life. He was just returning a favor. Youngmyeon thanked him, saying that he had made his task much easier. Elder Seokjun was shocked. Young Kunlin? Really a spy? But he brushed it off. It didn't matter now. Seokjun panicked. If this continued, he was finished. In desperation, he ordered the guards to detain Youngmyeon immediately. He was yelling at the Blue Dragon Squad and the others. Why didn't they avenge the third elder? Why did they stand idle? Youngmyeon calmly told the elder not to make a fuss. Now that the evidence was in front of him, he was only embarrassing himself. Seokjun tried to justify himself, shouting that he didn't know anything. Youngmyeon cut him off, saying that he couldn't get away with "I didn't know" in his situation. The young man pointed out the danger. If Kunlin had been the young head, the Tang clan would have fallen into the hands of the enemy. Did the elder still say he didn't know? Seokjun whispered in horror. You young head, wait! He unknowingly recognized Youngmyeon's new title, begging for mercy. Youngmyeon coldly stated that the Grand Elder could not escape the suspicion of harboring a spy. The punishment for such a thing was terrible. But since there were no direct accusations of collusion, Youngmyeon decided to limit himself to that. Seokjun thanked him brokenly for his mercy. Suddenly, the elder felt an incredible speed. Youngmyeon acted so fast that he didn't even notice. He knew how to handle a blade too. Elder Seokjun thought that the opponent didn't notice as he took out the poison, pretending to clamp the wound. Cunning plan. Its poison might not be as strong as the real Muhyun, but it was his own composition. He concentrated the energy in his hand. It took half of his life to make this deadly compound. Seokjun was sure that no matter how strong Youngmyeon was, he would not be able to handle Muhyun's poison. Elder Seokjun angrily hissed angrily to himself. He would kill that boy so quickly that he wouldn't even realize what it was. The other elder shouted in horror at Youngmyeon. What did he do? Didn't he promise to spare the great elder? But it was too late. The severed arm of the Grand Elder fell to the ground next to the broken vial of poison. A shocking sight. Youngmyeon looked coldly at the defeated enemy. He asked the elder if he was trying to poison him secretly. An elder called the attempt pathetic. Another elder pleaded, begging the young head for mercy. Despair swept over them. Youngmyeon raised a hand enveloped in green energy. He announced the verdict. Grand Elder Tang Seokjun has been charged with attempted murder. Trying to kill the young head was considered treason and the destruction of the clan. Youngmyeon said that such a thing was punishable only by death.